Chapter 1421. In the long river of time, there were countless people who had left a deep impression on Athena, but the most unforgettable one was still the handsome young man in front of her. It was as if he was branded in the depths of her soul. Ka. Dustless shattered his petrified lower body and looked at Athena expressionlessly, not caring at all. Are you crazy? Your body will be completely destroyed if you do that. Athena said in shock. She secretly cursed him for being an idiot. Such a rash action was equivalent to self-mutilation. Crazy? What you think is inconceivable is just a small matter to me. Hearing this, Dustless snorted disdainfully and retorted, the shocking thing in your eyes is just a trivial matter in my eyes. Then, Dustless's body underwent an inconceivable change. Large amounts of white liquid flowed out of his body, replenishing the damaged parts. Athena could already guess what was going to happen next. This is impossible. Where did he come from? Why does he have so many abilities that even the gods are jealous of? Athena was confused. What happened to Wu Chen's body proved her conjecture. His broken body was restored to its original state. I am the same as you. I have an immortal body. No matter what kind of attack I receive, I will recover. Dustless didn't say much. He just explained indifferently as if he was narrating a trivial matter that wasn't worth mentioning. What is your name? Athena finally started to pay attention to Dustless. Dustless. Athena frowned and said without thinking, I don't think there is such a name, don't think about it. I'm not a god. Dustless said disapprovingly. So what if he was a god? The number of gods that died in his hands could be used as a refugee camp. Your ability is also very strange. It doesn't seem to belong to authority. Athena guessed. She was a god of the Trinity. When she was the goddess of wisdom, she had the ability to see the other party's personality and divine power. With bright eyes, Athena stared at Dustless. Just as she was about to launch her ability to find out what was going on, the cold tone stopped her from doing so. There are some things that shouldn't be exposed. I advise you not to delve into it. Taking a deep look at Athena, Dustless said meaningfully. Are you afraid that I will know your secret and see through your weakness? Athena's eyes were full of contempt. If that is the case, God Slayer, you are going to be in trouble. Little girls nowadays know gods nowadays are really naive. Dustless shook his head and said bluntly, why is Pandora's box so popular? That's because every living creature has a curious heart. They want to know what's hidden in Pandora. Perhaps it's some kind of treasure, perhaps it's... But when they open it, they discover that what's hidden in Pandora isn't a shiny jewel, nor is it an elixir of immortality. Instead, it's an endless calamity and despair. It's the source of evil? Do you understand what I mean? Athena frowned. As the goddess of wisdom, her intelligence was naturally not for show. Are you saying that you are Pandora's box? Who knows? Shrugging his shoulders, Wu Chen gave an ambiguous answer. All in all, sometimes knowing too many secrets will make you feel that life is very torturous. Isn't it good to live in ignorance and happiness? That is you. Athena glared fiercely at Dustless. Although she refuted Dustless's ridiculous theory, she chose to obey in her heart. Understanding everything about Dustless's past might be a terrible thing. Go to hell. A large cloud of black fog emerged from her hand, and the surrounding sky was covered. Dustless was also in the black fog and his body was corroded. The damaged body was endlessly repaired. Just like Athena, immortal and indestructible, any wound could be healed. You're too weak right now. Come and challenge me when you've recovered to your peak. Dustless glanced at Athena. He wasn't interested in her authority. Dustless was no exception to Athena's abilities. Want to leave? Athena was about to launch a large-scale attack, but she fainted without warning. Sleep for a while. Rinnegan emitted a faint ripple, and majestic spiritual power invaded Athena's mind. She, who was full of fighting spirit, instantly closed her eyes and fell asleep. Plop. Athena fell on the soft grass and Dustless was nowhere to be seen. Next I will go to Japan. Dustless whispered to himself. He originally wanted to see Luo Hao, but after thinking about it, he gave up. After the violent Bishop Luo knew that he had become a god slayer, he would fight with him for 300 rounds. Anyway, there was still a long time in the future, so there was no need to rush. At Lucrezia's home. Is Athena done? Erica and Lucrezia asked in unison. They were full of confidence in Dustless. Since he could come back safe and sound, it meant that Athena had failed. Done. She is probably sleeping soundly now. Hearing this, Erica angrily picked up a glass of water and threw it at Dustless. Fortunately, his elemental body was able to dodge it, or his handsome face would be disfigured. Why don't you kill her? Her power is no less than Wellislana's. Erica's pretty face darkened, and she even wanted to pull Dustless over to kill him. She suspected, "Are you bewitched by her beauty?" "I just don't like her." Dustless responded faintly and sat on the sofa with his eyes closed. No one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 1422. Countless crows flew past Erica's head at Dustless's straightforward answer. She was speechless and conflicted. That was the power of a god, and it was better than nothing. But Erica knew that she could not persuade Dustless, so she could only let him be. One was a knight and the other was a king. She could only obey Dustless's orders. She had no right to disobey. "Pack your luggage, Erica. We're going to Japan tomorrow." "As you command, my king." Erica knelt on one knee and made a gesture of obedience. "Really?" Seeing this, Dustless shook his head. When Erica was serious, she was so serious that he did not even give her face. But when she was lazy, she was like a different person. "Don't you need to stay for a few more days?" "I'm still a little." "No need." Erica glared at Lucrezia and scolded in her mind, "Really, she's so flirtatious at her age. The world is so cold." At the same time, in another direction, in a dark and oppressive palace, an old man sat on the throne with a solemn expression. His expression was solemn and dignified, and he exuded a powerful aura. His eyes were green, and he looked like a hungry wolf that was about to devour its prey. Marquis Warban. On the carpet below, a silver-haired girl knelt on one knee. She did not even dare to breathe loudly. She did not even dare to look at the man on the throne. Her body was trembling as if she had encountered some super terrifying creature. Beads of cold sweat were dripping down her face. "A new god slayer has appeared? Liliana Kranikar?" The old man, who was called Marquis Warban, asked faintly. His tone was demonic and naturally oppressive. Liliana immediately tensed up and replied, "Yes, Marquis. The new god slayer is very powerful. He killed 2 gods easily." 2 gods? Curiosity flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes. He asked with interest, "What's his name?" Hearing this, Liliana's expression froze. She apologized, "I haven't found anything yet." Enough?" Marquis Warban bellowed, not giving Liliana a chance to defend herself. He said coldly, "There will only be one exception and one disappointment. If we don't know his name and origin next time." At the same time, Liliana displayed the knowledge of a large number of white skeletons. She waved the steel saber in her hand. Her meaning was self-evident. "Understood, Lord Marquis. That guy is rushing to Japan. I'll go and investigate." Liliana, who was trembling in fear, quickly agreed. This was what it meant to be in the king's company. He could turn hostile in an instant. Furthermore, he could treat a loyal subordinate of many years as trash and kill her at any time. This was a king. 5 days later, at Japan International Airport, Erica and Dustless walked out side by side. Compared to Erica, who had many bags, Dustless was empty-handed. He didn't even have a backpack. The plastic bag in his hand was full of snacks. ****, letting a lady carry your luggage and not giving me anything to eat. You really deserve to die." Erica roared crazily, attracting the attention of a group of people who pointed at her and whispered. Dustless decisively put some distance between them. "Does this guy have any gentlemanly demeanor?" Erica was speechless. Realizing that she had lost her composure, she quickly calmed down. "Where are we going?" Erica approached Dustless. Resisting the urge to beat him up, she grabbed a handful of popcorn from Dustless and stuffed it into her mouth. "Where are we going?" Dustless listened. This question was really difficult for him. He shrugged and said, "Actually, I don't know where to go either." The popcorn that she had just swallowed was spurted out in an instant. Erica's face and ears turned red as if her throat was blocked. She quickly grabbed the water bottle in Wu Chen's hand and gulped down a few mouthfuls of water, suppressing her murderous rage. "Then what are you going to do? Sleep on the street?" Erica only felt that the future was dark. This king's strength was not bad. As for other aspects, where to go is indeed a problem. Dustless nodded slightly, lowered his head and thought for 2 seconds, then said, "Let's go to Kusanagi Protector's place. I gave him a lot of money. He will definitely treat me well." Then, Dustless took Erica and ran to Kusanagi Protector's house. Dustless was still somewhat familiar with the route to his house. Kusanagi Protector? Erica showed a blank expression. There was no such person in her memory. He has changed from the first protagonist to the first passerby. Of course you know him. Dustless chuckled. Kusanagi Protector had been dismissed by him with 10 billion yen. Erika and Dustless were not ordinary humans. After a while they came to the door of Kusanagi Protector's house, but it was different from Dustless's memory. Did we come to the wrong place? Did someone die in his house? Erika was suspicious. There were wreaths in front of Kusanagi Protector's house. Obviously someone had just died. This? Dustless stammered for a long time without saying anything. He didn't know either. Don't worry about it. Let's go in and have a look. Erika nodded and followed Dustless into the room. Who are you? A clear voice came. Looking around, Kusanagi Protector's sister slowly walked in. Her eyes were red and she was extremely sad. Dustless, however, stared at the portrait in the room in shock. F***ck, is it because my eyesight is seriously overdrawn? The one hanging on the portrait is Kusanagi Protector? Wu Qin said in astonishment in his heart, blowing up a violent storm. Chapter 1423. Dustless was stunned. His eyes were fixed on the portrait of Kusanagi Protector in disbelief, as if they were about to fall out. If it weren't for Kusanagi Shizuka's red eyes, which indicated that she had cried so much that her eyes were red, he would have thought that it was a scam. That. I am your brother's friend. He was my best friend when he was alive. Dustless said with a serious expression, and then with a righteous expression he said, Who killed Protector? I must avenge him. Whoa. Hearing this, Kusanagi Shizuka burst into tears again and threw herself directly into Dustless's arms. After all, she was a helpless young girl. Hey, Erika was speechless. Looking at Kusanagi Shizuka helplessly, she remembered that her brother had just passed away, so she couldn't continue to attack her. She could only complain in her heart, even if your brother is dead, you can't take advantage of him. Does this guy really know Kusanagi Protector? Looking at Dustless, who was full of indignation, Erika felt that something was wrong. At this moment, Dustless gave her a feeling that he was a smiling tiger. Go in peace. I will take care of your sister in the future. Dustless stared at the portrait for a long time and decided to take care of Kusanagi Shizuka. He couldn't help but ask, how did Protector die? I didn't hear anything before. On the journey to Italy, Kusanagi Protector still carried the Prometheus secret book. Maybe he was targeted by some mysterious people on the return journey. After all, the Prometheus secret book was too precious. When my brother returned to Japan, he was hijacked by terrorists and then, boo-hoo. Kusanagi Shizuka cried even more sadly. Damn. It turned out to be terrorists. Are you kidding me? Although it was said that a certain country set fire and killed people every day in the Middle East, causing terrorists to sweep across the Eurasian continent, it was really tragic that Kusanagi Protector was hijacked. Shizuka, I'm sorry for your loss. The dead can't come back to life. You have to look forward. This is the legacy left by your brother. He participated in a reality show when he was alive and won 10 billion yen as a reward. Dustless handed a bank card to Shizuka Kusanagi and thought to himself, just take it as the room fee. 10 billion? There are so many of them. The grass pheasant essence exclaimed in shock. Don't worry, Hadong is my best friend. I will take care of you from now on. Dustless said with a warm smile on his face. This guy. Erika was speechless. She really couldn't bear to see Dustless continue acting. This guy obviously turned to someone else because he was at his wit's end, but now he was pretending to be so righteous. Shameless. Just as she was about to expose him, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her buttocks, followed by a particularly loud smack. Watch your mouth. After slapping Erika's butt, Dustless said in a voice that only the two of them could hear. You are quite shameless. Erika was lost for words, realizing that it was a mistake to stay in the same room with Dustless. She would be corrupted sooner or later. Humph. With a grunt, Dustless turned his head and comforted Shizuka Kusanagi, who was crying in his arms. I will live here from now on. Dustless secretly decided. Perhaps because she was too tired and sad, after crying for a while, Shizuka Kusanagi fell asleep. He carefully put her on the bed. After covering her with the quilt, Wu Qin found a pair of eyes with bad intentions. I am not a thief, don't stare at me like that. Dustless said with a headache. He found that Erika had been observing his every move since just now. Even when he went to the bathroom, she stood guard at the door. It seemed that she was afraid that Dustless would take advantage of the situation and do something bad to Kusanagi Hadong. Your character is very questionable. You should have only met Kusanagi Hadong once. Erica said righteously. You even know this kind of news. You are indeed a well-known genius. Dustless smiled noncommittally. The relationship between the two sides was more than just one meeting. Their relationship was even bad. After all, Dustless robbed Kusanagi Hutang's Prometheus secret book and forcibly modified Kusanagi Hutang's memory, leaving him with the impression that he was a robber. So, in order to atone for my crime, I have to personally support Kusanagi Hutang's sister. You should thank me. In the underworld, Kusanagi Hutang can also close his eyes with a smile. The people who killed him are those stupid terrorists. It has nothing to do with me. On the other hand, I adopted his sister and gave her 10 billion yen. What am I if not a living bodhisattva? Dustless said with a serious expression, as if Kusanagi Hutang had to come out and thank him. Sure enough, after being successful, it also means countless troubles. Frowning slightly, Dustless suddenly noticed a few eyes in the dark. Although the concealment was extremely perfect, it was still difficult to escape Dustless's fiery eyes. In a trance, Dustless seemed to see a silver-haired girl with a beautiful figure. Do we need to drive them away? Erica had a headache. In fact, when she first came to Japan with Dustless, she had expected this situation. The only thing she didn't expect was that it would come so quickly. They had just gotten off the plane, and the next second, some magic associations would come to their door. Let them be. Dustless waved his hand decisively. These kinds of people left in batches and came in batches. There was no need to bother with them. So, there will be one more in the future. The slightly melancholy tone came to an abrupt end. Observing Kusanagi Shizuka sleeping soundly in the room through the tiny crack of the door, Dustless could only sigh that the world was unpredictable. Kusanagi Hutang was killed by the terrorists for no reason, and he had to take care of his sister. Chapter 1424. Erica's eyes narrowed into crescent moons, smiling like a beautiful woman. Her eyes rolled with evil intentions, unceremoniously exposing Dustless's lie. I'm afraid that's exactly what you want. Kusanagi Protector's sister is a beauty. Erica snorted softly and said, Beauty? Indeed. But I've seen too many beauties, so I'm immune to them. Dustless's expression was calm and there was no lie. He had seen more than thousands of beauties. Just the number of female confidants in the system was innumerable. There were all kinds of heavenly beauties that one could wish for. There was nothing he couldn't think of that he couldn't see. By the way, although I'm living in Kusanagi Protector's house now, I still have to find a job. I can't let go of my pride to be supported by a beautiful girl. Dustless said, scratching his head. He had already thought of a suitable job for himself. He pondered and said, I'm going to study as a PE teacher in Jinghua's school. This new profession should be suitable for me. Teacher? Erica secretly clicked her tongue, stared at Dustless and muttered, To be honest, I feel that you are more like a student. You look about the same age as me. But my actual age is hundreds of years old. Dustless curled his lips and said firmly, No matter what, I've decided not to be a student. Hearing this, Erica was speechless. She couldn't help but wonder what kind of indelible demonic impression Dustless's former teacher left on him. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was the next morning. Are you too sure? Kusanagi Shizuka's gaze fell on Dustless and Erica. She was confused about their decision. Dustless wanted to be a PE teacher, but Erica wanted to transfer schools. She felt that there was something premeditated. Of course I'm sure. An excellent PE teacher like me is definitely what your school wants. Shrugging, Dustless said narcissistically. His explosive athletic ability was indeed suitable to be a PE teacher. I'm a one-in-a-million genius. If I transfer schools, the head teacher will be moved to tears. Erica stroked her long blonde hair and said proudly, It shouldn't be a problem. Shizuka Kusanagi nodded. She had no doubts about their abilities. Dustless and Erica didn't look like the kind of people who would play to the gallery. An hour later, Jinghua was in the principal's office of the Xianxia school. Is that simple? Then I should also be able to successfully apply for the job. Wu Chen frowned as he watched Erica leave. It was extremely simple for Erica to transfer schools. She only needed to go through a few procedures and everything was settled. As for you, the bald principal looked at Dustless, his eyes shining with wisdom, and said, Sir, your arms and legs are thin. You don't seem to be suitable for the position of a PE teacher. I've been despised. Dustless's mouth twitched and his expression turned gloomy. Just as he was about to beat him up and control him with an illusion, the bald principal's voice sounded again. And our school doesn't lack physical education teachers for the time being, so By the way, you mentioned before that you have some medical skills, right? If it's possible, I hope you can be a healthcare teacher. Seems to be the same. The flames all over Dustless's body disappeared, and he didn't feel any difference. He then promised, "No problem, any disease is a piece of cake for me." Phew, the bald principal breathed a sigh of relief, smiled and said, "Then you can take up the post now. The healthcare room is on the 4th floor, the last room on the left." "Goodbye, thank you very much, principal." Dustless nodded, bowed slightly and left. He walked to the location indicated by the bald principal. As soon as he stepped into the 4th floor, he heard a commotion. "Damn it, where's the healthcare teacher? Running away in broad daylight? We must report that guy. Senior Wanligu fainted inexplicably just now, and her will is still unconscious. Put her in the healthcare room first, you guys go to find the teacher." All the noise entered Dustless's ears. After listening for a few seconds, he realized that someone suddenly fainted during the PE class. It seemed to be a girl named Wanligu Yoli. Wanligu Yoli? Could it be that witch? Thinking of a witch with the same name, Dustless suddenly quickened his pace and rushed to the healthcare room. He ran as fast as a gust of wind, and it was a waste of talent not to be a PE teacher. When he stepped into the healthcare room, he was surrounded by dozens of girls. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless coughed twice and said with a serious expression, "Hello everyone. I'm the new healthcare teacher, you can call me Dustless. Please give me advice in the future." He's the new healthcare teacher? Should be. If he's an imposter, he would have been eliminated by the school's security personnel. So handsome. The group of girls kept chattering and took the initiative to make way for Dustless. Really, love-struck idiots can be seen everywhere. With a sigh, Dustless walked to the side of the bed. The girl in front of him was beautiful and refined. Even though she had fainted, she still had a faint, quiet temperament. Especially when he got close to Wanligu Yoli, he could faintly smell the orchid fragrance of an empty valley. Combined with her delicate face, it really made people sigh with admiration. "I've heard that she has poor physical strength and is not good at sports, but she shouldn't have fainted." Chapter 1425. Dustless frowned and looked at the pale girl. He seemed to have thought of something, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. He turned around and ordered them to leave. "The health room is a very serious place. Now all of you get out." Dustless's serious face was quite deterrent, and he also released a trace of his own temperament. These girls who were heckling were like ants on a hot pan, and they fled in panic. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. "It's better to be serious." Dustless shook his head and sighed. Then he stared at Wanligu Yoli for a long time. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly and he said in his heart, "I'm afraid that this little girl deliberately pretended to be unconscious. Her purpose is to get close to me, the new king. She is really well informed. I just became your health room and you fainted." Cough, cough. After clearing his throat, Dustless's eyes flashed with a teasing look. He deliberately pretended to have a questioning expression and said to himself, "The body's pulse and complexion seem to be fine. Although the weather is a bit hot, it doesn't seem to have the characteristics of heatstroke. His body is weak, but it shouldn't be to the extent of fainting." Dustless's eyes fell on Wanligu Yoli's body. Seeing that her eyes were still closed, he had to take an inch and ask for a mile. Could it be that there is a problem with other parts of the body or... And Flo is here. I'll check it out now. Ah. Just a second before his voice fell, Wanligu Yoli instantly sat up, and it was accompanied by a deafening ear-piercing scream that made people tremble. "Perverted teacher, stay away from me." Realizing that Dustless had approached the bed, Wanligu Yoli panicked and quickly picked up the pillow and threw it at him. Fortunately, Dustless dodged it with a god-level dodge. "I'm helping you to treat Wanligu Yoli," Dustless said with a smile. He thought in his heart, "You are still 100,000 miles away from fighting with me." Treat? Hearing this, Wanligu Yoli's face instantly turned red. She couldn't help but curse Dustless's ancestors in her heart. She had the urge to vomit blood. She immediately labeled Wu Chen as a wretched pervert. She thought to herself, "I only fainted. What does this have to do with whether my period came or not? Moreover, you want to personally check how perverted he is. Student Wanligu, your face is abnormally red. Is your blood flowing faster? His heart was beating rapidly? This is a big problem that needs to be treated. Hurry up and take off your..." "I'm fine." Wanligu Yoli quickly jumped out of the bed, and his expression quickly returned to normal. In order to dispel Dustless's doubts, he ran 2 laps in an extremely vigorous manner. It seems that he has really recovered. Tisk tisk, my medical skills are really brilliant. Dustless shamelessly boasted and sold himself, but he was laughing in his heart. Brilliant. Chapter 1426. Dustless agreed to Wanli Yoli's request after careful consideration. If he rejected her first, it would mean that she would come to him again. In that case he might as well settle it once and for all. See you after school. Wanli Yoli bowed with a smile and immediately left with light steps. Just as she was about to step out of the infirmary, her body stopped as if she had been electrocuted. May I know your name? Wanli Yoli was very embarrassed. Thinking of her presumptuous behavior just now, her face reddened uncontrollably again. Who would be willing to have a girlfriend with a person they didn't even know? Dustless. Dustless responded softly. He put his hands in his pockets and looked at the golden scenery outside the window with boredom. Goodbye, Mr. Dustless. Wanli Yoli's face bloomed with a charming smile before she hurriedly left. What a shy girl. Are you planning to eavesdrop on others' conversation? And you're terrible at hiding, Erica. Hearing the rapid breathing outside the infirmary, Dustless sneered in a strange tone. I thought someone brought their cow to see a doctor. So it's Elika-chan. Tap tap tap. Erica walked in righteously. Although she was eavesdropping on the conversation between Dustless and Wanli Yoli, she said righteously, protecting the king's safety is the rule of a knight. This is not eavesdropping but a duty. Please pay attention to your words. You're quite good at talking. Dustless sat down on the bed, holding his head and saying, Really, ever since I became that whatever king, troublesome things have come one after another. If they're not trying to rope me in, they're trying to scheme against me. I can't be careless at all. Once a person had the power to destroy the world, he would inevitably become the target of all forces and organizations. This was an unchanging law since ancient times. Are you really going to see her? Erica asked with a frown. She was very unwilling. Dustless was only so big. If everyone wanted to take a bite out of him, how could she take a bite out of him? Of course. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. After all, this is their territory. Dustless said casually. Anyway, he had nothing to do. You're afraid that you'll be punished for troubling that little girl, aren't you? Erica snorted as if she knew what he was thinking. After school, Dustless attracted a lot of attention as soon as he arrived at the school gate. What does that have to do with you? Dustless looked at Erica and asked. At this moment, his right arm was tightly gripped by her, sandwiched between her cleavage. It's a knight's responsibility to protect the king. Erica's expression was solemn, her tone sounding like that of a professional bodyguard. What about you? She turned her head and glanced at Shizuka Kusanagi, who was holding Dustless's left arm and glaring at Erica. You're Onii-san's friend. It was good to be free. Why would he want to be someone else's pawn? However, I still hope that when the god of disobedience appears, your excellency can protect our country. With a face full of sincerity, Winterhorse said, In return, my country can agree to all of your conditions. Dustless's performance was mediocre. He had already guessed that this would be the case. Okay, if you know that I'm in this country and still dare to come out, it's a blasphemy to me. Rubbing his chin, Dustless waved his hand and said. Then he stretched leisurely and remembered Erica's instructions. When he was about to retreat home, he suddenly smelled something unusual. It was a hissing sound similar to a python. Ah! I didn't finish my sentence for long, and you came to add insult to injury. You did it on purpose. How can I accept this, Miss Athena? Looking up at the sky, Dustless happened to find a cold gaze sizing him up. It was Athena, who he encountered a few days ago in Sardinia, Italy. At this moment, her expression was cold, and her cold temperament seemed to be isolated from the world. There was a faint hostility in her eyes. This guy is extraordinarily strong. He can still remain so calm in the face of a god. Winterhorse secretly clicked his tongue. When he heard that the opponent was Athena, his body seemed to be fixed in place. After all, she was a god. In front of her, humans were just ant-like grains of sand not worth mentioning. If she wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. You have my scent on you. Staring at Dustless for a long time, Athena finally said something inexplicable. Oh, no way, is there something wrong with my ears? Hearing this, Wanli Yoli and Winterhorse were stunned. Wanli Yoli's face was full of awkwardness. She vaguely understood what Athena meant. She immediately cursed Dustless in her heart for being a womanizer and not even letting go of a god. Winterhorse secretly gave Dustless a thumbs up. He was shocked that he even dared to lay his hands on a god. As expected of the lawless king. Seeing this, the corner of Dustless's mouth twitched. He found that Yoli and Winterhorse were looking at him differently. He snapped at Athena, "Watch your words. Don't cause a misunderstanding." Dustless could not help but be angry. He cursed Athena in his heart for deliberately sowing discord. As surpassers in different fields, why should we care about the feelings of ordinary people? Let them think what they want. It has nothing to do with me. From the beginning to the end, Athena's tone was calm and collected. She did not even look at Yoli and Winterhorse. In her eyes, except for Dustless, the others were just insignificant humans. "Miss Athena, are you looking for me?" Dustless asked. He was too lazy to talk to her about trivial matters. He said, "If you still want to challenge me, I advise you to give up. The gap between us is too big." Awesome. 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 Hearing this, Winterhorse was full of admiration. He could not wait to go over and thank Dustless, daring to say that the gap between them was too big to a god. The person who said this was either a super strong person who had the power to destroy the world or a lunatic who sneaked out of a mental hospital during the holidays. "No need to thank me, you have provoked me as a god before, this time help me find the Gorgon stone, and I can let you go," Athena said seriously. This fellow's narcissism is on par with sect leader Luo Haolua. Dustless cursed his bad luck, and when he thought about it he suddenly realized that other than Yoli, all the women around him, whether it was Luo Hao, Erica or now Athena, all had this narcissistic trait. But then again is the Gorgon stone with Erica. If Athena knows that I lied to her, she will definitely be torn down by Serene Flower's family. Dustless sighed and he could only take one step at a time. Yoli quietly approached Dustless and said softly, "Is this really okay? She is the god of disobedience and can bring about a devastating disaster." Gorgon Winterhorse did not say anything, but he looked at Athena nervously. Obviously, he had the same idea, and being associated with the god of disobedience was tantamount to asking for trouble. "You are right, but," at this point, Dustless looked at Gorgon Winterhorse and pointed at Athena and said, "Why don't you help me deal with her?" Hearing this, Gorgon Winterhorse stumbled and almost fell. He was about to open his mouth to refute, but he found a cold gaze locked on him, and then his body suddenly lost control and he could not move and even breathing was difficult. He looked up and saw Athena's cold eyes looking down at him. Gulp. Gorgon Winterhorse broke out in cold sweat, and he secretly sighed at his naivety and even ignorance. One of them was a peerless demon king, and the other was a high and mighty god. The agreement between the two of them was not something a human could interfere with. "We will not interfere with the opinions of the two of you as outsiders." Gorgon Winterhorse wanted to die. Being remembered by two unprecedented figures, he would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. "Goodbye." Cupping his hands, Dustless swaggered off with Athena following closely behind. Plop. Gorgon Winterhorse sat down on the ground, feeling the pressure. He was already sweating profusely, and in front of the king and god, he really could not summon up the will to resist. To put it bluntly, if he angered Dustless and Athena, the country of Japan would disappear from the map of the earth, and the powerful combat power of the two could easily destroy a country. Chapter 1429. Winterhorse thought of his reckless action and cursed his stupidity. That was provoking the king and god. Maybe it would only take a moment to kill them and his lowly life. Damn it, this world is so cruel and unfair. Winterhorse said emotionally. The probability of the number of kings and gods increasing was 0, and humans were just a weak group waiting to be dominated. Not everyone was like Dustless, who had the power to destroy the world and could easily kill gods. Looking at the whole world, there were only 7 god-slayers. Just this crazy probability alone showed the probability of the birth of a god-slayer. "It's getting closer." Down the street, Athena followed Dustless. She could feel the aura of the Gorgon stone getting closer and closer. Following Dustless was definitely the right choice. "Are you not afraid that I will betray you and get the Gorgon stone and kill you?" Athena asked curiously as she looked at the calm Dustless. "I believe that I will keep my promise." Dustless shrugged with an indifferent expression and then added, "Of course, I have enough confidence in my own strength." Hearing this, Athena's eyes widened as she thought to herself, "This guy's eloquence has not deteriorated at all." In fact, Dustless was just looking down on her. Basically, he was quietly telling Athena that even if she regained her strength, she would not be on par with him, and he was not afraid of her sudden attack. What a confident guy. Athena frowned. Although she did not want to admit it, it was undeniable that Dustless did have that kind of strength. We're here. Walking in front of an apartment, Dustless gestured for her to enter. It is indeed here. When she heard that Shizuka Kusanagi was in front of her house, Athena's heart throbbed even more, and her heart beat faster, and she even saw the Gorgon stone in a daze. Thank you. Athena's thin lips parted slightly, revealing a rare touch of true emotion, but it sounded bitter, and a blush flashed across her face. This little girl also has a cute side. Seeing this, Dustless smiled and invited, "Come in and have a seat. I don't think Jinghua will dislike you." "That won't be necessary. Just go in and bring out the Gorgon stone. I'll wait outside." Athena shook her head. She was used to being alone and was not good at socializing. "Don't tell me you won't run while I run?" Dustless teased. "I'm sure you've seen my speed. Even as a god, you won't be able to catch up to me." "Indeed." Athena nodded. "You can run, but I'll tear her house down," Athena said in a soft voice. This barbaric goddess is really unreasonable. Dustless smiled bitterly and stepped into the room. A warm breeze blew against his face, making him feel very comfortable. "You're finally back." Erika on the sofa breathed a sigh of relief. Kusanagi Shizuka was already asleep. She had been waiting for Dustless for a long time. "Where's the Gorgon stone?" Dustless asked faintly as he poured himself a cup of hot tea. "You know about it?" Hearing this, Erika was stunned for a moment before she looked at the cold Dustless and said awkwardly, "I'm sorry to hide this from you. They had no choice but to give the Gorgon stone to me. This kind of thing will attract revenge wherever it is kept. Only by giving it to you as the king can you protect him." "So you're saying that I have to protect it?" After taking a sip of tea, Dustless remained calm and said, "Leave her to me. I will protect the Gorgon stone with my life. Protect the peace of the world. That's the king in my heart." Hearing this, Erika revealed a cheerful smile. She immediately jumped in front of Dustless and gently pecked him on the face. "Smells so good." Dustless nodded slightly, and then took the initiative to seal Erika's thin lips, and quietly took the Gorgon stone in his hand. "Ahem, I suddenly remembered that I left something at school. I'll be back soon." With that, Dustless turned into a hurricane and disappeared, leaving a stunned Erika behind. "The Gorgon stone, here you go." Looking at Athena, who had been waiting outside the door for a long time, Dustless handed the Gorgon stone to Athena and threw it to her without even blinking. "Go." Athena took the Gorgon stone in shock. Her arms were trembling as she looked at Dustless in disbelief. The reason why she did not want to step into the room was that she felt that there was a trap, but now it seemed that she was overthinking it. "Thank you, I will remember this favor." Athena thanked him seriously, and at the same time used the same tactic as Erika, leaving a kiss mark on Dustless's face while he was distracted. Beauty and beauty. Dustless was very pleased with himself, and just as he was about to attack Athena, a hoarse voice suddenly rang out, and Dustless stopped as if he had been electrocuted. "I say, you too." A shrill voice suddenly rang out, and Dustless and Athena looked at each other and followed the source of the voice. It was Erika, whose veins were bulging. Damn it, caught in the act. Seeing this, Dustless knew that things were not going well, and he broke out in cold sweat. Especially when he had just obtained the Gorgon stone, Dustless had colluded with the enemy and provided it to Athena, and there would be a bloodbath. "You." Glaring at Dustless, Erika was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She had just given the Gorgon stone to Dustless for safekeeping, and the next second he gave it to Athena. Chapter 1430. Erika glared at Dustless, not bothering to hide her anger. She did not expect this guy to be so cunning. She had just given the Gorgon stone to him for safekeeping, and Dustless had given it to the enemy in such a short period of time. Using the Gorgon stone to win the enemies. Erika's face was red with embarrassment. She had seen the scene between Dustless and Athena clearly, and she wished she could find a crack in the ground and crawl into it. How could she go out and meet people in the future? That is a reward from a beauty to a servant. Athena said matter-of-factly as she stared at Dustless, occasionally showing a satisfied smile, as if she was extremely satisfied with Dustless as a servant. Wait. Dustless could no longer remain calm and asked, "Servant? When did I become your servant?" Even rudely. "We are still enemies." "I am very satisfied with you, and it is your fortune to be my servant," Athena repeated, her firm tone filled with possessiveness. "What kind of trouble is this?" After a few bitter laughs, Dustless said with a straight face, "Miss Athena, I am very pleased that you think highly of me, but I am not interested in being your servant, please go back. You fool. Erica moved closer to Dustless and scolded, now you know it's troublesome? Were you blinded by lust? This guy might destroy the world, and once Athena gets the Gorgon stone, she may recover all her strength. Don't worry. Patting Erica on the shoulder, Dustless explained, the so-called Gorgon stone was originally Athena's, and I personally don't think it's too much to return it to its rightful owner. Hearing this, Erica's bitter smile deepened and she felt like crying. Although Dustless's words made sense, it still depended on who the other party was. Since you don't agree, I can only force you to agree. Athena said seriously, suddenly feeling that it was not bad to turn Dustless into a servant, and Athena felt very satisfied at the thought of the dead man being turned into a servant. Boom boom boom. Athena's body erupted with an unimaginable amount of mana. Like a volcano erupting, purplish-black mana overflowed. Rings of light gradually spread out and quickly engulfed the entire sky. At the same time, a crackling sound came from Athena's body. Looking at the source, Athena's body expanded rapidly as if she had been injected with hormones. On the surface he looked like a 12 or 13-year-old child. But now, he had transformed into a high and mighty god that could only be watched from afar and not played with. Athena's figure grew bigger, and her voluptuous figure gradually became more prominent. She wore ancient clothing and her silver hair flowed down to her waist. Her purple-black eyes were as beautiful as gems, and they even glowed as bright as moonlight. This guy can't be serious, right? Dustless secretly clicked his tongue. If he had been killed directly, he could still understand. But now, this unexpected script was completely different from what Dustless had imagined. Come here, my loyal servant. Athena smiled and hooked her finger, and her charm increased greatly. She was like a peerless beauty, and her whole body was filled with fatal temptation. In a trance, Athena's mentality changed. If she wanted to defeat the enemy, she did not have to rely on strength. It might be more interesting to defeat him in another way. Sorry, I'm not that interested. Dustless repeated again, and at the same time, his back was already overflowing with a large amount of light. He knew that right now, only strength could tame Athena. Miss Athena doesn't know how to repay kindness at all. Dustless sighed softly. She had been scolded and given the Gorgon stone to Athena. This guy kissed her and now he wants to turn against her. How shameless. At the same time, Dustless realized that he had suffered a great loss. Just as well, I can also get some interest back. Dustless said with relief. He could take advantage of this opportunity to get back the interest. Otherwise, he would have suffered a great loss. Erica, just protect Static Flower and don't get hurt. This guy is my cup of tea. Dustless motioned Erica to hurry back to the room. The fight later might affect the two of them. Kaibao of the King. Dustless used the exclusive skill of a tycoon as soon as he entered the arena. In an instant, it was as if he had arrived at a magnificent palace. The surroundings were golden and beautiful. Naive, you want to stop me with these pieces of scrap metal? After recovering her full strength, Athena was full of confidence. Her cold eyes were like the temperature of water as they quietly swept across the sky. Ka. All the weapons that she had her eyes on disappeared, turning into stones that fell around Dustless. All the weapons that Athena saw collapsed. I told you a long time ago that I am completely different from before. Do you regret it now? But I'm sorry, I won't hand over the Gorgon stone to you, it's mine to begin with. The mighty Athena said proudly. She was a completely different person from before. Not to mention capturing Dustless as a servant, she could even take him in and keep him. You have become stronger. You can't be underestimated. Dustless nodded and said solemnly. His words sounded like he was quite afraid of this girl, but his graceful actions and calm expression silently mocked the girl for overestimating herself. But Miss Athena, you seem to have been careless. After a while, Dustless suddenly chuckled. One sentence made Athena's invincible attack pause. What is this? When did this happen? Athena was shocked when she realized that she was surrounded. This guy. He even dared to God, as to she's as twos a god's asterisk s a star. But, you know that was the way just thinking about it made Erica panic as if the world was about to be destroyed. This guy was gambling with the safety of the whole world. Nice touch. Dustless nodded slightly with a satisfied expression. He looked at Athena, and he could vaguely hear her grinding her teeth, and her breathing was dozens of times faster than usual. "Hey Miss Athena, you have to calm down now. Although I am the health doctor of Xianxia school, it will be troublesome if you faint from anger. I might have to perform CPR." Dustless teased her with a serious and teasing tone. "You?" Athena's face flushed red as she glared at Dustless. Her arms and legs were all bound by the heavenly chains, and even though Dustless was close at hand, she could not attack. She could only suppress her anger and glare at him. She swore to herself that she would make Dustless pay her back 1,000 times in the future. "You still want to take revenge on me? This god is a little arrogant. Don't you realize the gap between us now?" Dustless stared at Athena, and even though she hid her desire for revenge very cleverly, he could still see it clearly. "Hee hee." Then there was a burst of strange laughter and Athena trembled. "Kill me if you dare." Athena glared at Dustless fiercely and her body was cold. "Even if you kill me, no one will let you have an easy time in the future. Even now, you are still so stubborn, Miss Athena." Dustless shook his head slowly, and his eyes shot out bursts of terrifying light. Gulp. Even with Athena's calm temperament, she could not help but feel her scalp tingle. Who knew what kind of perverted things this guy could do? "Ahem." Dustless coughed softly, cleared his throat and said loudly, "In that case I can only continue to teach Miss Athena a lesson. It is not good to fight and kill." Dustless shrugged and showed an "I am very kind" expression. "Pretend, keep pretending. The fox's tail that you hide will be exposed eventually." Erica scolded in her mind. "Why didn't you say that when you bullied Mercator and Velislana?" She looked at Athena and saw that the heavenly chains had tied her up tightly, and she could not move at all. The so-called god was now like a fish on the chopping board, and Dustless could do whatever he wanted to her. At this point, Erica actually sympathized with Athena. Encountering someone like Dustless who didn't play by the rules could be considered as her unlucky year. Slap, slap, slap. There were 2 more crisp sounds. Erica knew without looking that Athena's butt had been slapped again. However, Dustless turned a deaf ear to him. What he got in return was always that crisp collision. Pa pa pa. Athena's eyes widened. She wanted to bite Dustless to death. This guy was too evil. As a god slayer, he did not have any demeanor that a god slayer should have. He used the most despicable means without any bottom line. "I agree to be your servant. Hurry up and let go of me." Athena, who had no choice, could only admit defeat. Who asked this guy to be so inhumane? Is it that simple? Dustless reluctantly withdrew his right hand. Looking at Athena's submissive expression, it did not seem like he was deceiving her. He removed the shackles of the heaven lock. "Idiot, of course it's not that simple." As soon as he said that, Athena's expression changed faster than flipping a book. Black light surged in her hand, and a crescent-shaped sickle was formed in an instant. She swept it across the air without hesitation. Clang clang clang. The sound of steel colliding spread. When the cold light of the sickle was about to tear Dustless apart, it was stopped by a western sword and could not pass through for the time being. "Well done, my lovely Miss Knight." Dustless gave her a thumbs up. Erica's reaction speed was very fast and decisive. "Get out of my way. I'm going to get rid of this evil." Athena gnashed her teeth. Her butt was still numb. If it were not for Dustless's existence, she would have found a hole to hide in. "Sorry, although I sympathize with your experience, a knight cannot run away from a battle." Erica's eyes were resolute, and her sonorous voice was unshakable. "Also, as a god, are you going to go back on your words? Since you have agreed to be my king's servant, you should abide by the agreement," Erica said with a solemn expression. As a loyal knight, she hated people who went back on their words and destroyed the jump agreement the most. In her eyes, that was unforgivable. "Humph, that's because this evil man used dirty means to force me. If it were you, would you be willing to be the servant of a mediocre man?" Athena retorted without fear. Her words hit the nail on the head, and Erica, who was usually eloquent, was speechless. She racked her brains and found that she could not refute. It was undeniable that this was the undeniable truth. No matter who it was, they could not accept such unfair treatment, not to mention that Athena was a goddess with a loftier heart than the sky. "Why are you saying that I'm a beast? I'm just playing a game with you, Miss Athena. Why do you hate me so much?" Dustless raised his arm with an aggrieved expression, as if he had suffered a great loss. His face was full of pain. Even Erica wanted to help Athena fight against Dustless. Dustless originally wanted to tell Athena to get lost and leave this place as soon as possible, but in the end he decisively changed his mind. It was indeed a good thing to have a god as a servant to serve him tea. Dream on. Athena, whose face was red from choking, retorted and swung her scythe at him. Amaterasu. Dustless's eyes widened, and a large flame appeared in his hand, burning fiercely. Then he used all his strength and shouted, "Earth life." The Amaterasu instantly transformed into a sharp black sword. Let's see what's different. Athena, who did not believe it, snorted softly. A large black light condensed in her hand, and it looked extremely ferocious. It vaguely looked like a snake head full of fangs. Bite him to death. As soon as her voice fell, the black snake head that she had painstakingly condensed spewed out like a cannonball. In the blink of an eye, it rushed in front of Dustless, its bloody mouth open as if to swallow the world. Boring. With a light stroke of his arm, a ray of cold light swept across the void, and the giant snake was instantly eroded by the black flames. Ow 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 ow. The miserable roar was completely different from the mighty roar just now. It was filled with endless pain, and in just a few seconds, the giant snake body was buried in the flames. So strong, Athena's eyes flashed with ripples when she saw this, and she instinctively took a step back. This overwhelming power was too strong, and it was difficult for her to have the courage to fight back. All that was left was pure despair. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. A divine rainbow crossed time and space at an incredible speed, and when it landed in Athena's eyes, it was faster than the speed of light. By the time she reacted, the invincible black sword was already at her throat. "It's over, Miss Athena." The young man's dry lips opened slightly, and as if he had jumped through space, he appeared in front of Athena, and the peerless divine sword ended this boring and meaningless battle. Still not convinced? Seeing that Athena was silent, Dustless smiled calmly and said, "How about this? You choose a way of duel that suits you. You can choose any place and you can decide the rules." "No need." Athena shook her head, and her arrogant self-esteem instantly collapsed. The painful defeat made her understand the true meaning of, there is always someone better than you. What shocked her the most was that Dustless had used his own power, and Velislana's authority did not have a single one. "The condition before my trip is that I am willing to be your servant." Hearing this, Dustless stretched and thought to himself, that's more like it. Everything before was unnecessary. I can just use a strong fist to make her speechless. Chapter 1434. Do you need to take back the Gorgon Stone? Erica asked quietly after a few seconds of silence. Even though Erica's voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz and could be ignored, Athena, who was a god, heard it clearly. She immediately looked at Dustless nervously. If Dustless took it by force, she would not be able to do anything. "It's useless to give me a stone, keep it." Without even thinking about it, Dustless refused. With the Gorgon Stone, Athena would have the strength of her heyday, and if she peeled off the Gorgon Stone, she would return to her original appearance and become a 12 or 13-year-old girl, and there was a fatal factor: her strength would be greatly reduced. No one wants to have their strength reduced, especially Athena, who had just recovered her strength, and she did not want her strength to be short-lived and lose its shine after just one night. As such, Dustless did not try to snatch the Gorgon Stone by force. "It's getting late, let's go back to sleep," Dustless said and took the lead into the room. "By the way, there are no extra rooms at the moment, where are you going to sleep?" Dustless asked as he turned to look at Athena, who was in her mature form. Although Kusanagi Protector's room was still empty, he could not let Athena sleep in a dead man's room. "It's simple," Athena said casually and looked seriously at Dustless and said, "I'm willing to accept my loss, and since I promised to be your servant after losing, I will definitely abide by the agreement, so I'll sleep in your room." Athena's matter-of-fact tone immediately aroused Erica's dissatisfaction, and she said, regardless of Athena's identity as a god, "I strongly object." "Mind your own business." Dustless pursed his lips, knowing what Erica was thinking, because often in the middle of the night, he would be ambushed by her. If Athena joined in, wouldn't it be worse? Absolutely not allowed. "You can sleep in Kusanagi Protector's room, you two are good friends anyway." Erica made the decision for Dustless. Without giving Dustless a chance to speak, she brought Athena to Dustless's bedroom. It seemed that Athena was going to take over Dustless's room. *CK, is she really a servant? There's something wrong with this script. Why am I the one being kicked out? It seems like the master-servant relationship has really been switched. Above Dustless's head, 100,000 crows and 100,000 grass mud horses whizzed past. Stop right there and then. Striding to Erica and Athena, Dustless asked solemnly, "To tell you the truth, I'm scared of ghosts." "Why don't?" Glancing at Athena from the corner of his eye, Dustless's appetite was aroused. After regaining her divine status and age, Athena's hot body was undoubtedly revealed. Her voluptuous cleavage was not inferior to Erica's at all. Her clothes were bulging, especially the clothes she was wearing were rather special. In Dustless's eyes, her skin was vaguely visible, as if it were transparent. Her snow-white skin was vaguely visible. In particular, Athena's identity as a god was like a fatal poppy, teasing Dustless's already restless heart. How great would it be to have such a servant? She could fight with her body and warm up the bed. Dustless suddenly felt that such a servant was too worthwhile. Why don't I suffer and sleep with Athena? After saying that, Dustless reached out to grab Athena's soft arm, but he suddenly felt that something was wrong. It was hard and didn't feel like a soft and boneless hand. He instinctively turned his head. "F***ck, you're so fast? Why didn't you react so quickly when I drew my sword to kill the enemy?" Dustless slandered in his heart. What he was grabbing was a spear, and Erica was looking at him with an unfriendly face. Her eyes were clearly saying that there was no way he could steal her. "Do you want me to sleep alone?" Dustless was speechless. Although he didn't believe in ghosts, sleeping in the room of a person who had just died, and Dustless had even beaten him when he was alive, it was inevitable that he would be obedient. "I don't mind." Athena's exquisite face was expressionless and calm. Her purple-black crystal eyes stared at Dustless, and a strange look flashed across her eyes. In fact, the gods had no opinion on the selection of a mate. There was only one criterion: weak strength. Nothing else mattered. In the ancient era that Athena had lived in, strength was even more important. Whether one was ugly or not, including other races, these were actually not important. In ancient myths, there were many stories of humans and beasts becoming partners. Hearing that, Erica almost vomited blood in frustration. She looked at Athena speechlessly. "As a god, you're too blind. This guy is clearly trying to take advantage of you. What's the point of this?" Seeing this, Dustless was secretly pleased. He winked at Erica and suggested a bad idea. "If you think there's a problem, you can actually join us. Anyway, the bed is big enough to accommodate 3 people. I think there shouldn't be a problem." Erica was speechless. She didn't want to leave Dustless alone, but if she took the initiative to join them, she would lose face. "You guys are still awake after all that noise? It's almost dawn now." A lazy voice came from the depths of the corridor. Looking over, Dustless realized that it was Kusanagi Shizuka. He knew that his plan to take down the goddess tonight was going to fail. Shizuka, this is Athena. She's an assistant in the infirmary. Something happened today, so she can only stay at home. Why don't you two squeeze in?" Erica pointed at Dustless and suggested. "This guy is really good at lying." Turning back to the room, Dustless knew that he had no chance tonight. He knew Shizuka's personality very well. Although she was sometimes strict with her words, she was really kind at heart. Therefore, he would accept Erica's suggestion. Chapter 1435. The next morning, the sun shone brightly. Last night, Athena and Shizuka Kusanagi slept together. Dust had no choice but to release the fallen angel Asuma Amano from the original world temporarily to quench her thirst. After that, he let her go back. "The devil's kung fu is so good," Dustless muttered as he put on his clothes. He was full of praises for Asuma Amano's kung fu. His legs were still a little weak. "It will be ready sooner or later. Dustless, bro, we will take our leave first." Shizuka Kusanagi's anxious voice came from downstairs. As for Dustless, he went downstairs leisurely. He was a doctor in the infirmary and had no other requirements. It was not a problem for him to wait for a while. Athena seems to have left too. He thought that Athena was still sleeping. Unexpectedly, there was no sign of her in Shizuka's room. She probably went out for something. Forget it. She shouldn't be missing. Dustless was too lazy to think about it since he could not find Athena. Her legs were her own, and he could not tie them up with a rope. After about half an hour, Wuxia finally arrived. It took him about 15 minutes to reach the infirmary. "You really like lazy men." Before he opened the door of the infirmary, a dissatisfied voice came from inside. "Is that the bald principal?" Wuxia asked suspiciously. He gently pushed the door open and was immediately dumbfounded. He stared blankly at the figure close at hand. His head was spinning a little. The person in front of him was wearing a white coat with black stockings. Her perfect figure was exposed. She exuded a mature aura and was holding a white notebook. Athena? After confirming that he was not short-sighted, Dustless looked as if he had seen a ghost. You are dressed like this. Are you also a health teacher in this school? No, I'm your assistant now, Athena said with a serious expression. Assistant? You don't have to worry about it. Hurry up and go home. Not many people come to the infirmary. I am redundant as a health teacher, let alone an assistant like you. Dustless ordered Athena to leave so that she could be more reliable. It was ridiculous to be a doctor's assistant. She was only good at killing people. It's redundant. Athena looked at the information in her hand and nodded. There were only a few people who felt unwell every month. Dustless, the healthcare teacher, slept almost every day. Hurry up. An anxious voice came from the corridor. The infirmary is just up ahead. You guys be careful. I'll call Teacher Dustless first. As expected of the Lord of Hell. As soon as you arrived, someone immediately came to treat you. Dustless laughed sarcastically. He couldn't help but take a second look at Athena. Her perfect figure was even more perfect than Dustless had imagined. Athena just coldly swept a glance at Dustless and directly ignored him. It seems to be for young girls, Dustless said with a frown. At the same time, he caught sight of a familiar figure rushing towards him. Her little face was flushed with exhaustion, and she ran into the clinic in a huff. No, Teacher Dustless, there's a new student in our class. She suddenly fainted during class and is still unconscious. Xuanhuan said anxiously. Her voice was filled with endless worry. She is. Athena was as eye-catching as the bright moon in the night. Xuanhuan was quite afraid. She moved her body and hid behind Dustless. Why is Athena here? And she's dressed like this? Are you guys cosplaying? Xuanhuan asked softly. Athena was wearing the same gown as Dustless. She obviously looked like a doctor. How could she not be surprised? I'm now the healthcare teacher here, or rather, her assistant. Your principal has already agreed. Athena said calmly. Her voice was as calm as an ancient well. Agreed? Did you use some kind of evil trick to force her to agree? Dustless asked suspiciously. He had doubts about Athena's character. Bring the patient here first. Dustless looked at the door. It was a silver-haired girl and she looked familiar. Could it be? Dustless thought of the girl in front of him. Just as he was about to ask Xuanhuan, she started to explain. Her name is Liliana Kranikar. She's a new transfer student. Xuanhuan said bluntly. No wonder I remember her. So it's this girl. Does this mean that Marquis Warban wants to make a move on me? Even if he doesn't know his limits, there should be a limit. Dustless sneered in his heart. He was sure that Liliana Kranikar was temporarily sent here by him. He would probably come here in person soon. Be careful. Glancing at Xuanhuan, Dustless reminded her, the identity of a witch is very troublesome. You should know about the summoning ritual of the god of disobedience 4 years ago, right? Hearing this, Xuanhuan shivered and nodded silently. Really, you're too kind. You know that this guy could be an enemy, but you still chose to help him. Xuanhuan's kindness was overflowing. Thinking about it carefully, Marquis Warban was most likely targeting her. Dustless and Marquis Warban did not have any direct conflict. You two have similar personalities. Dustless changed the topic and said meaningfully. Xuanhuan blushed. When she first got close to Dustless, she pretended to be sick. Perhaps Liliana was no exception. All right, put this patient on the bed first. You can all go back to class. I'll treat her properly. Chapter 1436. Go back. Xuanhuan looked at Dustless suspiciously. If Dustless did not know about Liliana's identity, she could still trust him. After all, they had no grudges against each other. However, now that she knew about Liliana's identity, the meaning was different. Don't worry, she's just a weak little girl. No matter how immoral I am, I won't kill her. Wuxian made a solemn vow in a clear voice. All right then. Xuanhuan took a deep look at Liliana and did not say much. Although they were both kings, Dustless had no reason to murder Liliana. After all, this guy could even let the god of disobedience go. There was no reason for him to murder a little girl. Moreover, just like what Wuxian said, she was a little girl who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. With me around, she won't die, Athena said softly. Finally, they're all gone. After about 10 seconds, Xuanhuan and Xuanhuan left. Only Athena and Dustless were left in the huge healthcare room. You know her? Pointing at the pale girl, Dustless asked. The two of you should be familiar with each other. That's not important. Athena did not care and said casually, I know that this girl's identity is not simple. I'm just curious about the god slayer behind her. I see. Dustless understood and immediately approached Liliana's bedside quietly. He cleared his throat and a sly look appeared in his eyes. He decisively chose to use the same old trick and deliberately said to himself, she doesn't look like she's sick. Could it be caused by her period? Quickly take off her underwear and let me check. Athena, who had just sat down, stood up reflexively and looked at Dustless with a green face. She shouted angrily, Are you kidding me? How can such nonsense wake her up? Don't. However, what made Athena petrified was that Liliana really stood up angrily. You bastard. Liliana glared at him angrily. Her delicate face was flushed red, and her fists were cracking. Her piercingly cold eyes were as deep as the cold wind. The infirmary suddenly became chilly, as if it was in a world of ice and snow. Dustless ignored Liliana's murderous aura and said to Athena with a smile, Although some of his strategies are terrible, I can't deny that they are very useful. Miss Liliana, you dare to invade my territory and even dare to injure people. Dustless said pointedly, This is a blatant provocation. Is Marquis Warban issuing a challenge to me? You know everything? Liliana was clearly stunned. She did not expect Dustless to know her identity. She clenched her fists tightly. Athena's appearance made her extremely nervous. As a god slayer, you actually colluded with a disobedient god? Liliana shouted angrily as she pointed at Athena. She believed that Dustless had betrayed humanity. Why not? In my eyes, there is no difference between humans, god slayers, and gods. Dustless explained nonchalantly, Everything in the world is just a type of life form. There is only a difference in strength. Liliana moved her mouth. She clearly felt that Dustless was a big liar, but she was powerless to respond. Kill her, Athena said calmly. A purplish-black light floated in her hand, and a gleaming scythe appeared. It locked onto Liliana with hostility, not concealing her murderous intent. Liliana's expression changed drastically. She immediately felt that her body was not listening to her. She knew that this was the effect of Athena's murderous aura, and she was powerless to deal with it. No matter what kind of genius one was, they would be unable to cope with the strength of a god. Liliana did not even have the courage to resist, especially when faced with a god and a god slayer whose strength was unfathomable. To put it bluntly, if she wanted to hurt someone, she would definitely be killed in an instant. It was ridiculous for a mere human to dream of challenging a king and a god. Marquis Warban sent you here, right? That old man is not going to stop at all. Liliana tried to bluff her way out, but Dustless answered for her. He wants to use the god of disobedience, summoning ritual of the witches to kill more gods. His ambition is not small, and his desire for authority has reached the point where he has forgotten himself. Among the few god slayers, he seems to have the most authority. How does this guy know so much? Liliana did not seem to be moved, but her tightly shut mouth was clenched so hard that her teeth were about to shatter. I have heard of that god slayer, Athena suddenly said. She thought about it and recalled. He hunts gods for fun. In the past, the god of disobedience, summoning ritual was related to him. However, he is quite bold to dare to set his sights on me. Dustless sneered, and the air suddenly became bone-chilling. But I really don't understand. I have no relationship with him and there is no enmity between us. Why did you enter Xianxia Academy? I only tamed Athena yesterday, and no matter how well-informed Marquis Warban is, he does not know that Athena is one of my people. Dustless was puzzled. Not tamed but submitted. Athena's tone was full of anger. She was not a beast and did not need to be tamed. Athena had only submitted to Dustless yesterday, and Marquis Warban obviously could not have come for him, nor could it be Erika or Kusanagi Shizuka. To an arrogant king like Marquis Warban, humans were not worth mentioning. Thus, only Dustless was left, but he was sure that he had not offended Marquis Warban. Now that Liliana had come to him for no reason, he could not understand. He covered the left and right side of armament hockey and simply grabbed the long sword that could cut iron like mud. Let go of me. Liliana shouted angrily, and at the same time she used all her strength to increase her strength. However, sadly, no matter how hard she tried, she could not shake Dustless. Answer my question and I will let go. Dustless smiled contemptuously, knowing that Liliana would not give in if he did not teach her a lesson, so he lazily snapped his fingers. Kakaka. Liliana's school uniform suddenly burst, leaving only her underwear and underwear. The other dazzling snow-white skin was all exposed under Dustless's eyes. Shameless. Liliana cursed and quickly trotted to the corner to hide. Athena Ninja filmed this scene and carefully observed how the legendary beast was raised. Are you sick? You need treatment. Dustless shrugged casually and slowly approached Liliana. At this moment she was like a frightened rabbit. She had no fighting spirit and was abandoned by the world. Looking at Dustless who was approaching her step by step, Liliana's insistence was completely crushed. Don't come over, I'm willing to tell you everything. Unable to take the blow, Liliana had no choice but to confess. She hurriedly said, "It was your master who spread the news, announcing to the world that you are her disciple. Marquis Warban and Luo Hao are mortal enemies, so he sent me to spy on you." She betrayed me? Dustless was instantly petrified. After a while, the corner of his mouth twitched and asked, "Luo Hao did this on purpose. I'm afraid she wants Marquis Warban to find trouble with me. Her purpose is probably to train me, but her plan is too insidious. What if I can't beat her and get killed by Marquis Warban? Even if you want to cheat your apprentice, you can't do this." "I don't know about this. Anyway, the news that you are Luo Hao's apprentice was spread by the Five Mountains holy sect under her orders. Marquis Warban and the Jiangnan martial queen are mortal enemies, so..." Seeing Dustless finally stop, Liliana relaxed. "You still need to train?" This time, it was Athena's turn to be speechless. In her opinion, Marquis Warban was not here to find trouble, but to die. That's her personality. Dustless did not know whether to laugh or cry. His face was full of confusion. No wonder Marquis Warban didn't mind the trouble of coming to Japan to find me. He probably wants to kill me as well. Luo Hao and Warban are mortal enemies. He probably wants to kill me to annoy Luo Hao, but he overlooked a big problem. I'm afraid he's the one who will be killed this time. Even though Warban had the most power, it was still not enough in Dustless' eyes. Power did not mean victory or defeat. They were completely incomparable. He looked at Liliana with his mouth agape and said in astonishment, "I didn't know you could write romance novels." He gave Liliana a thumbs up without hesitation, then motioned for Erica to continue reading. "We are like..." "Wait, I agree to your request." Liliana hurriedly begged for mercy. Their malicious smiles were a far greater blow to her than a simple physical attack. She had to suppress her anger and lower her head. Moreover, after offending and betraying Marquis Warban, unless she found someone to protect her, she would end up in a miserable state. The best outcome would be to become Marquis Warban's servant. "That's the right choice, Miss Liliana. You will be honored by your decision in the future." Seeing that Liliana had given in, Dustless heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "If Marquis Warban knows that you betrayed him, that old fellow will definitely go berserk." Indeed. Liliana nodded in agreement. She understood Marquis Warban's character. Or rather, every person in a high position and power would be extremely wary of one kind of person: traitors. "You want to use this little girl as bait to lure him?" The intelligent Athena immediately understood Dustless's intention. She nodded and said, "It's not impossible to give it a try. Given Warban's personality, he will definitely take the initiative to kill us." "Are you crazy?" Liliana's eyes were gloomy and she muttered to herself like a machine, "That fellow is a god slayer, and he is the oldest supermaster who has killed the most gods. To be honest, if he hadn't killed so many gods, I wouldn't have been interested in him. It's precisely because he has killed so many gods that I am interested in him." Dustless said nonchalantly. If Marquis Warban could kill the most gods, it meant that he definitely had something extraordinary about him. He wanted to see how heaven-defying that old fellow was. "I think so too." Athena's beautiful eyes were smiling. It was rare for her to stand in the same trench as Dustless. That fellow's target, apart from Dustless, seems to be Wanli Guyoli as well. Of course I can't let him go. Even if we don't provoke such an ambitious person, he won't let us go. Therefore I also agree to kill Marquis Warban. Erica's beautiful face was tense and her breath was cold. "You..." Liliana moved her mouth, but in the end she couldn't be bothered to say more. As the king, Dustless had already made the decision, so what could she, a small pawn who had just joined this group, say? Moreover, Athena, this big shot, had also agreed. Chapter 1439. The minority obeys the majority. This was a principle that had not changed since ancient times. We can gather Duke Warban, but we must at least have a suitable plan. We can't act rashly. The other party is the king with the most information and the most authority. Liliana said with a serious expression. So what? That old fellow is actually very useless. He's just a little more experienced. Why does he like killing gods? It can be understood as a sign of cowardice. It's because he realizes that he's not strong enough, that he wants more authority. There's no need for a superfluous plan. Just trick him out and beat him up. Dustless said casually. You're right. I actually think so too. A plan is too superfluous. Just tell him whose fist is bigger with pure strength. Athena agreed with Dustless's method, which was rare. The two jumped into the same trench at the same time and cooperated quite well. Erica sighed inwardly in disbelief. It was truly a miracle that two incompatible tigers could cohabit together. Erica, what do you think? Hearing Dustless and Athena's casual tone, Liliana could only look at Erica for help, hoping that she would give a suggestion that a normal person would have. Liliana, this plan is indeed a little superfluous. Erica shrugged and said apologetically, you have to understand that we have a king, a trinity goddess, and two powerful knights on our side. There's no need for a plan at all. The one who should be worried is Marquis Warban. Liliana opened her mouth but chose to close it in the end. She knew that the wise Erica of the past had disappeared. She had been brainwashed by Dustless and Athena. Then let's take it one step at a time. Liliana finally compromised. Thinking about it carefully, Erica's words made sense. The one who should be worried was indeed Marquis Warban. After all, they had the advantage. Lord Marquis. Liliana's respectful voice came from the dark and cold palace. She stood in the middle with her head lowered, not daring to breathe loudly or even raise her head. Even so, Liliana still felt her skin trembling uncontrollably. Her life would be mercilessly taken away by the master on the throne at any time. Liliana, Marquis Warban looked up at the girl and asked calmly, how is the information I need coming along? Don't give me a disappointing answer or else. You know the consequences. With that, Marquis Oban released his killing intent. So strong. Liliana broke out in cold sweat. She forced the throbbing in the depths of Anai's soul and quickly said, Lord Marquis, I have already inquired about that Dustless. Really? Marquis Warban chuckled and withdrew his murderous aura as he expectantly asked, how did you attain the Tao? And is that fellow really Luohao's disciple? I did it through. Liliana paused for a moment as she recalled Dustless's bad idea. She secretly cursed him for being a pervert before she clenched her teeth and said, that guy is a pervert. Chapter 1440. Marquis Warban was not an idiot. Instead, he was very shrewd. When the flaming horse had just descended from the sky, Liliana had taken the initiative to distance herself from him. What did this mean? Even a 3-year-old child knew what this meant. He had been abandoned. You dare betray me? Marquis Warban was furious. He had always been the one toying with others. He had not expected to be toyed with by Liliana. It was a great humiliation. Absolutely unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. Oh whoa. Marquis Warban was exceptionally calm in the face of the raging flames. He did not hesitate to use his abilities, and his appearance changed greatly in an instant. So big. Liliana, who had retreated far away, was shocked. She saw Marquis Warban transform into a huge werewolf. He was more than 30 meters tall, and he looked fearlessly at the falling horse. Oh whoa, whoa, whoa. His roars echoed throughout the sky. Just as the flaming horse was about to swallow Marquis Warban, a change suddenly occurred. Oh whoa. Marquis Warban opened his mouth leisurely, his huge mouth full of fangs swallowing the flames of the white horse. After that, Marquis Warban burped as if he had not had enough. Kiki, eerie laughter came from Marquis Warban's mouth. He roared fearlessly at the sky, his voice full of destruction. Dustless, I know you're hiding in the dark, you coward. Come out if you have the guts. Fight me to the death. Marquis Warban was like a madman who had lost control. He was in a deranged state, and his body was filled with a bone-piercing killing intent that made people want to retreat. However, the world was solemn and no one paid him any attention. This made Marquis Warban feel even more humiliated. Since you won't come out, I'll deal with this traitor. Marquis Warban turned his head and locked onto Liliana, his eyes cold. Every time his huge body twisted, there would be a cracking sound. The ground could not bear Marquis Warben's weight and collapsed. "Damn traitor," Marquis Oben said through gritted teeth. This stain was even worse than a slap to his face. Marquis Oben's dignity had been severely challenged and looked down upon. It's just a mere beast, yet it dares to behave so atrociously towards humans. Nowadays, public morals are truly degenerating with each passing day. A frivolous and ear-piercing voice came from afar, accompanied by a large flash of light. 1,000 meters, 100 meters. 10 meters, 1 meter. The light approached at an inconceivable speed, appearing above Marquis Warben's head in an instant. Lightspeed kick. Dustless took advantage of Marquis Warben's dazed state to kick him in the eye. Boom boom boom. The light came and went quickly, but the injuries inflicted on Marquis Warben were difficult to erase. His right eye had traces of burn marks. Ka. The powerful force caused his 30-meter-tall body to lose its balance. Marquis Warben found it difficult to maintain his balance and was about to fall to the ground. So, in the end, Marquis Warben chose to give up and return to his free body. Even though his body looked powerful, it was not easy to deal with. "You think this is the end?" The floating light in the sky asked coldly. Both of his arms fell at the same time, and a rain of golden bullets fell from the sky. The number of bullets left Marquis Warben completely flabbergasted. Yasakani no Magatama. A large amount of light poured down, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart was chilling. It was filled with despair and coldness. There was no suitable ability to try and stop Dustless. "Humph, I want to see how powerful you are." Forced into a corner, Marquis Warben once again spread out his wolf body, wanting to rely on the hardness of his body to withstand the devastation of this move. This guy is really an idiot. He wants to rely on the hardness of his body to resist the Yasakani no Magatama. I hope he doesn't turn into a sieve. Dustless sneered. Using another ability at such a crucial moment would only increase the number of places Marquis Warben would be attacked. The curtains of a bloody massacre immediately opened. As time slowly passed, Marquis Warben managed to resist many attacks with his tough body, but it was only a portion of the light bullets. There was still a large number of light bullets waiting for him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Marquis Warben was covered in blood and flesh. More and more scorched holes appeared on the surface of his body. Just from looking at the surface of Marquis Warben's skin, it seemed like he was going to be poked into a beehive. There were holes everywhere. Beep beep beep. Blood continued to drip from Marquis Warben's body. At a closer look, he was already riddled with holes. His abdomen, arms, and even his head had wounds from the attacks. "You bastard!" Marquis Warben raised his head and stared at Dustless. He had never seen someone so detestable, someone who wanted nothing more than to eat his flesh and drink his blood. "You still haven't given up?" Dustless frowned and softly said, "Fine. Since you want to die so much, I'll reluctantly fulfill your wish, you defeated super scum." "You think you can kill me?" Marquis Warben laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. "Even your master Luo Hao couldn't do it, let alone a disciple like you. Try to kill me in your next life. Foolish thing, repent for your crimes." Gathering a large amount of high-density energy in his body, Dustless was serious this time. Gazing at Marquis Warben's miserable face, the smile on Dustless's face growing wider. He really couldn't understand how this old man could resist. Chapter 1441. Marquis Warben had a look of disdain on his face. Although he had been severely injured due to his carelessness, it would still be difficult to take his life. Thus, even though he was ill, he was not afraid of Dustless. At most, it would be a fight to the death and both sides would suffer. "You think you can hurt me?" Dustless glanced at Marquis Warben, a look of disdain flashing in his eyes. The spiritual pressure all over his body erupted. Looking at the miserable Marquis Warben, Dustless softly muttered, "Tao Breaker 90, Black Coffin." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A sharp sound pierced through the air. Warily, Marquis Warben tried to find the source of the sound, but it was too late. Poochie, poochie, poochie. His already unbearable body was once again covered in bloody scars. The ghastly injuries made one shudder, and Marquis Warben grimaced in pain. Even so, Marquis Warben still stood tall. "This guy, his body is very strong," Dustless muttered. It was a miracle that he could still stand after suffering such heavy injuries. Of course, it could also be seen that this old man's strength was extraordinary, and that he was very familiar with the various powers he controlled. "Now it's my turn to counterattack." Marquis Woban roared, his eyes shooting out waves of oily green light as they locked onto Dustless's head, a sinister smile on his face. Still thinking? Oh, not a bad ability. Dustless nodded. He felt his right arm slowly stiffen, turning into a pure white mysterious crystal, as if it had turned into stone. His blood stopped flowing and he was unable to move. But your eye technique will only be effective for a short period of time against a godslayer like me, Dustless replied indifferently, giving him a deep look as he spoke. What's wrong with this guy? His annoying tone is really annoying, Marquis Woban said. Marquis Warban said gloomily. Dustless's omniscient tone made him feel as if he knew everything, which made him rather unhappy. It doesn't matter if it's effective for a short period of time, it's enough. Staring coldly at Dustless, Marquis Woban smiled cunningly, his face filled with insolence. He increased the output of his eye power, and most of Dustless's body turned into salt crystals in a short period of time. You can't move now. Come out, my lovely servants. Marquis Warban laughed coldly. Countless shadows appeared on the ground. These people had no aura, and their clothes were clearly different from what they were wearing now. Most of them were wearing armor, similar to the attire of European warriors. Although it's only for a short while, I can use this free time to get rid of you. Marquis Woban waved his hand and shouted, Go, my servants. Ao 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 ao. The servants of death were like mad beasts. They hadn't eaten for many years, and they all viciously pounced on Dustless, wanting to be devoured by this delicious food. These ants are too much of an eyesore. A thick purplish-black python descended from the sky, its bloody mouth opened 360 degrees. Crack. Many of the servants of death were crushed by its sharp fangs, and its thick, sinuous body swayed vigorously. Its strength was so great that a light touch could send all of the servants of death flying. Athena, looking up at the domineering lady standing in the sky, Dustless found that after fusing with the Gorgon stone, she had become stronger and stronger. It was obvious that she had control of this powerful force. You're in a tight spot, Dustless. Athena teased. If you're willing to beg me, I don't mind helping you take care of this hungry wolf. Athena? Marquis Woban was stunned when he heard that. He immediately thought of a god that matched the identity of the peerless girl in front of him, and the greed in his eyes was undisguised. Dustless pursed his lips and said disdainfully, Do you think I can't take care of such a small fry? Besides, pay attention to your identity, my lovely maid. Done talking, Dustless directly shattered his own body, turning into a pile of fragments. Ah, is that guy an idiot? The crystallization of salt can only last for a short period of time, and it will not take long for it to recover. This idiot shattered his own body? Aha, he killed himself. Savage laughter rang through the sky as Marquis Woban mocked Dustless without restraint. What's going on? It's dawn? Marquis Woban, who was laughing maniacally, froze. He suddenly realized that the world in his eyes was dazzling, as if he was suddenly close to the center of the sun, extremely bright. What's there to be surprised about? A ghostly voice rang out. Looking at the source, Dustless's shattered body had recovered. Impossible, you're already dead. Marquis Woban shouted in panic, and there was a rare trace of fear in his voice. No one could accept the sudden resurrection of a dead person. Illusion, it must be an illusion. Marquis Woban denied vehemently. Idiot. Dustless did not say much. He just coldly raised his feet and aimed at Marquis Woban's head. Lightspeed kick. Under the night sky, the glittering gold-plated right leg was especially dazzling. The light, which contained 500 kilograms of force, blasted toward Woban's aged face. Crack, crack, crack. The clear sound of bones cracking could be heard, followed by a black shadow flying backward. Boom, boom, boom. Marquis Woban's appearance was particularly miserable. The bridge of his nose had sunk in, and due to the excessive heat, his cheeks had melted, leaving behind a mark of humiliation, Dustless's footprint. You've offended Marquis Woban. Liliana smiled bitterly. As a European, Marquis Woban valued etiquette. Now that Dustless had left an irremovable footprint on his face, and his opponent was Luohao's disciple. Chapter 1442. Perverted Human. Athena could not help but be impressed. If this was the power of a god, then so be it. The key was that Dustless was using his own strength. For a human to reach this level, he was not inferior to a god. Even in the face of Dustless's countless trump cards, Athena was defeated twice in a sorry state. Damn it, damn it, damn it, Marquis Oban touched his rough cheeks in agony. His pale old face was distorted. Being stepped on was far worse than being killed. He had no choice but to accept a tragic reality. He seemed to be no match for Wu Chen. This is a great humiliation. Marquis Oban smashed the floor. Ignoring the intense pain, he suddenly stood up and waved his hand. My loyal servants, chopped that brat into pieces. That brat was naturally dustless. He still hasn't given up on his evil intentions. Athena frowned. Her purple-black gem-like eyes blinked and a crisp sound rang out. Ka-ka-ka. The frenzied army of death servants were all petrified and turned into hard stones. As for Marquis Oban, there was no trace of him. We can't let him escape. It's very troublesome. Erica and Liliana were about to give chase, but Dustless stopped them. He smiled faintly and said, "If that old man is tactful, I'll spare him this time." "Your Majesty, you're too kind," Liliana said unwillingly, but she still retreated. "He's like this sometimes." Erica shrugged. She was used to it. "It's like nurturing a tiger." Athena said bluntly, "If you let a dying wolf go, he might bring back a pack of bloodthirsty tigers next time." "That's really scary." Dustless put on a fearful expression and shrunk his neck, as if he was afraid of what Athena said. "That's not important anymore. Let's go home. Yoli and Jinghua have probably been waiting for us for a long time." After saying that, Dustless took the girl's hands and left happily. Even though no one knew about the battle between Dustless and Marquis Oban, the fact that Marquis Oban had fled back to Europe left an indelible impression on everyone. As expected of my disciple. In the shabby nunnery, the girl's narcissistic and proud murmur could be heard. This was Luo Hao's territory in the depths of Mount Lushan. Ever since Marquis Warban left Europe for Japan, she had sent people to keep an eye on Europe's every move. The news of Marquis Warban fleeing back to Europe in a sorry state had reached Luo Hao's ears immediately. "I heard that Dustless left a footprint on Warban's face." Serves him right." Luo Hao's gentle laughter was as pleasant as the sound of a mountain spring crashing against a rock. She smiled like a beautiful woman. There was no better news than this. Dustless helped her vent her anger. "But that kid's actions are really amazing. Before he became a god slayer, he killed 2 gods. Now he even defeated Marquis Warban. He's not simple." Luo Hao was sincerely impressed. She also thought that she was favored by the heavens. However, compared to Dustless, her achievements seemed to be worthless and not worth mentioning. In fact, when Dustless left Mount Lushan for Italy, Luo Hao had sent people to secretly follow him. She had been paying attention to Dustless's movements at all times. "I heard that he even tamed Athena, the god of disobedience, and made her his servant. That kid is really brave. I even heard that he spanked Athena." Thinking of this, Luo Hao's face was faintly red, and her eyes were somewhat empty. No one knew what she was thinking. At night, the moonlight was like a plate, and the sky was full of bright stars. "Another one? Oh no, if it's Senpai Wanrigu then it's 2. Shizuka Kusanagi sat opposite Dustless with a serious expression. She put on an interrogative expression and said, "Our house is about to become your harem base." Erica, Athena, Liliana, Wanrigu Yoli. Including Shizuka herself, there were exactly 5 women. Dustless moved his mouth and looked at Athena and Erica, hoping that they could explain their pain. However, Erica was elegantly drinking coffee, and Athena was holding a girl's magazine and reading it seriously, as if it had nothing to do with them. "That's too heartless." Dustless complained in his heart, but he still forced himself to explain. "Liliana is my patient. I'm the only one who understands her condition. The others will only cause trouble. As for Wanrigu Yoli, she's my assistant." Dustless casually found a lame excuse and said without blushing or panting. Why did he shove Wanrigu Yoli over? In fact, Dustless also understood Kanajima's thoughts. He just wanted to use him, hoping that something breakthrough would happen. "Isn't your assistant me?" Athena asked in a slightly dazed manner. "You're fired," Dustless said bluntly. "Where were you when I was besieged?" She even tried to poach Dustless. Seeing that Athena was not qualified, he decisively fired her. "What you say doesn't count," Athena said disapprovingly. In the past, she couldn't wait to leave Dustless. Now she had changed her mind. Although she couldn't fight with this old man under the same roof, she wouldn't be bored. It was much better than wandering around in the past. Chapter 1443. Dustless rolled his eyes when he heard this. He suddenly realized that he really had no way to dismiss Athena. When he first joined Xianxia school, he did not receive any news. It was all the fault of the Baldi principal. Speaking of which, what are we eating tonight? Dustless sniffed and suddenly found an unusually pleasant aroma. His mind was also hooked, and his eyes involuntarily swept toward the kitchen. This doesn't seem to be the kind of cooking that Hikari is good at. Dustless was quite curious. Just as he was about to go to the kitchen to observe, Erica's voice stopped Dustless. Liliana is cooking tonight. Her cooking skills are very good, very good. Erica licked her thin lips, revealing an expression of great appetite. I know that. Dustless nodded in agreement. Then he looked at Liliana, who was frowning and filled with resentment, and said calmly, but she doesn't seem to be willing. I can feel her resentment in the living room. That's not something I can control. Erica shrugged, showing an expression that said it had nothing to do with her. However, the wicked smile that could not be hidden no matter how hard she tried to hide it showed that this matter was inextricably linked to her. Don't tell me. Erica is really sinister. Wuchen vaguely understood what kind of outrageous things Erica had done. He immediately gave her a hopeless look. Don't tell me that you're threatening Liliana with romance novels again? Dustless's expression was strange, and he did not know whether to laugh or cry. It's fine as long as you don't make a fire. If you tear down the house, Hikari will definitely come after me again. Looking at the smiling Hikari Kusanagi, she seemed to be amused by Erica's actions. There was a satisfied smile on her face that had not been there before. Kusanagi Kudo, I took care of your sister very happily. You can rest in peace in the netherworld. Dustless stretched and closed his eyes. He was really tired after the battle with Marquis Warban. At the same time, inside an abandoned warehouse somewhere in Europe, the gloomy and oppressive environment made people despair. Living things were forbidden, and only the squeals of rats could be heard. Occasionally, a dark shadow would pass by, adding to the fear. Salvatore Anthony, the pale old man with oily eyes, said in a low voice, I didn't expect you to keep the appointment. Looking at Salvatore Tony, who was fully armed, he continued, but you may be disappointed. I'm not here to fight with you this time. Uncle Warban, you're not looking for a fight? Aren't you looking for me for revenge? That was really disappointing. After all, I've snatched your prey. Salvatore Anthony was quite surprised. There was a slight fluctuation in his tone. He immediately looked at the looming footprints on his face. It seems that you have suffered a great loss when you went to Japan to deal with the God Slayer. Thick killing intent flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes, but he suppressed his rage and hoarsely said, I will definitely settle this score with that guy called Dustless and Luo Hao. Settle this score? Salvatore Anthony curled his lips and said disdainfully, I heard that Dustless is Luo Hao's apprentice. You can't even beat her apprentice. Do you think you have a chance of winning with Luo Hao? Of course not. Without even thinking about it, Marquis Warban admitted frankly and replied, that Dustless is very strong. I even suspect that he is stronger than Luo Hao. If Dustless were here to hear this, he would definitely give a thumbs up and say, you have good taste. Stronger than Luo Hao. Hearing this, Salvatore Anthony's eyes flashed with surprise. Luo Hao was a famous Valkyrie, and Dustless was just her apprentice. Moreover, Dustless had been a god slayer for less than a month. It sounded like a fantasy that he was stronger than a god slayer who had been around for more than 200 years. This is an undeniable fact. Despite his reluctance, Marquis Warban had to admit that he was ambushed. However, in this world there was only victory and defeat. Who cared about the process? And the most tragic thing was that Dustless had a super follower like Athena. Therefore, Marquis Warban was destined to end up in a miserable defeat. That's really exciting. Salvatore Anthony's eyes flashed with a fiery light. He could not wait to grow wings and fly to Japan to fight with Dustless. He took the bait. Marquis Warban laughed secretly. Salvatore Anthony was not interested in anything, but when it came to talking about a battle, he would pay more attention. By the way, why did you ask to meet me in private? Salvatore Anthony frowned and asked, don't tell me you want to work with me to find trouble with Dustless? Why can't I? Seeing that Salvatore Anthony had seen through his intentions, Marquis Warban admitted, Dustless is very strong, and he has a god follower, Athena, who is extremely powerful. In addition, he has a master Luo Hao. Who can defeat such a person in a one-on-one fight? Only if we form an alliance can we have a chance of winning. Find a god's follower? Salvatore Anthony widened his eyes and asked in disbelief. The gods were extremely arrogant. They would not bow down to anyone, and the god slayers were no exception. Before the god slayers killed the gods, they were just ordinary humans. Chapter 1444. Dustless naturally did not know about the premeditated plan of Warban, the Marquis, and Salvatore Tony. Of course, if he knew, he would not care. Anyway, life was boring enough, and it would not be a bad thing if someone came to provoke him. Do you want to join forces with me? Salvatore Anthony asked seriously, grasping the key point. Of course. Marquis Warban nodded and said, he is too strong. I can't deal with him alone, and I don't think you can either. Don't compare me to you. Salvatore Tony said coldly, and at the same time he was also very interested in Marquis Warban. In any case, one thing was undeniable. Dustless seemed to be very strong. If it was as Marquis Warban said, the situation was very unfavorable for them. Dustless, Luo Hao, a super god, and two powerful knights, such a combination was invincible. Then I will join forces with you. Salvatore Tony finally gritted his teeth and said. He was very interested in Dustless. Time flew by, and the next morning, a large group of people set off from Shizuka Kusunagi's house. Athena was Dustless's assistant, so naturally she was always by his side. As knights, Liliana and Erika, Shizuka Kusunagi and Wanrigu Yoli were also always by his side. They're going to cut me into pieces. Dustless was speechless and smiled bitterly. He found that everyone was looking at him with envy, jealousy, and hatred, as if he was a thorn in their side. Athena, pay attention to your image. Dustless coughed dryly. Because he had given the Gorgon stone to Athena, she had always maintained the appearance of 18 or 19, and was no longer the 12 or 13-year-old child she used to be. She was very close to Dustless, and her body exuded a very strong fragrance, tempting Dustless's nerves. Athena herself was very cold, and gave people the feeling that they wanted to conquer her. What's the matter? Athena turned her head and looked at Dustless. She did not hide her doubts. I also want to ask you, where did you come from? Athena raised her head and revealed a thoughtful expression. Her adorable look was quite cute. Athena, who was known as the goddess of wisdom, had a very different look when she revealed this expression. It had a different style. Can you stay away from me? I might be swallowed alive by Erika and Liliana. Dustless leaned close to Athena's ear and said gloomily. His eyes fell on the heads of Liliana and Erika, and his eyes were filled with resentment. No matter when a woman saw the man she liked talking and laughing with another woman, she would always be dissatisfied. Sigh. Seeing this, Athena did not restrain herself. Instead, she deliberately pulled Dustless closer and revealed a naughty smile. She whispered, I suddenly found a good way to defeat you. Defeat me? Dustless couldn't help but laugh. His eyes were full of disdain as he said disdainfully, with your level, it's too embarrassing for you to deal with me at my peak. Is that so? Athena turned a deaf ear to Dustless's arrogance and responded with a chuckle as if it didn't exist. At this moment, Athena suddenly stood in front of Dustless and licked her red rose lips. The sly smile on Athena's face deepened. What do you want? Erika and Liliana were on guard at the same time. When Athena wasn't around, it didn't matter if they had internal strife. But when Athena was an unprecedented enemy, Erika and Liliana had to work together to deal with her. Oh! Athena looked at Dustless shyly with a shy expression. Her red face revealed two drunken blushes. Not only that, Athena's emotions were mixed with a trace of resentment, reluctance, and complicated emotions. Is there something wrong with this woman's head? Why is she showing such an expression? She looks like a resentful woman. I didn't do anything wrong to her. Dustless complained. Athena's expression gave him the illusion that he had mercilessly had sex with her and then abandoned her in the end. Athena, what exactly are you? Wu Chen's words stopped abruptly. Suddenly he felt a chill on his neck. He turned his head and saw two ferocious eyes that were more ferocious than those of wild wolves. They were glaring at him furiously. It was Erika and Liliana. Are you not going to take responsibility for what you did to someone else? Erika asked with her beautiful eyes spitting fire. Her starry eyes were filled with hatred. She said, abandon Athena. Even if you are the king, I won't let you off. Erika slashed her sword. Fortunately, Dustless had elementization. Otherwise, he might really end up with his head separated from his body. Me too. Then Liliana also stabbed her sword at Dustless's throat without holding back. But fortunately, the elementization ability still worked, helping Dustless easily dodge this terrifying sword attack. Stop right there. Don't be fooled by him. Dustless's mouth twitched. He finally understood what Athena's words meant. What the F***? What the F***? She was using her chastity to trick Dustless. Erica and Liliana, who were full of righteousness, would certainly not let him off. Explain it to me clearly, Dustless said gloomily, wishing he could swallow Athena alive. Athena was even more embarrassed. She blushed and said, "How can that kind of thing be explained clearly? The process is not important, but your long-cherished wish of me giving birth to your child is real." "Fine, I'll make your act real when we get back to school and make your dream come true, Athena." Dustless cursed while dodging the attacks of the two women. Chapter 1445. Athena smiled faintly as she observed Dustless, who was besieged by Erica and Liliana. She had a cunning look of excitement on her face just like a child's. Sure enough, no matter who he was, he had a weakness that no one knew about. This guy is very protective. Athena's eyes flashed as she watched Dustless, who was being chased by the two women and only cared about explaining himself without fighting back. She finally felt a sense of belonging to Dustless. It could be seen that Dustless was an extremely protective person. Only a protective person would value the people around him and not allow anything to happen to them. Athena admired Dustless's protective personality. "If you don't leave now, you'll be late. Otherwise, you'll deduct your salary." Athena ignored the playful crowd and left Dustless with a beautiful back view. Glancing at Athena, who was skipping away, Dustless felt like swallowing her alive. "You're not the one who was framed. Not only did you not help me, but you're also that damned murderer." At the same time, in another direction. Not long after Marquis Oben left Japan, he made a comeback. Of course, this time he brought with him a powerhouse who was strong enough to ride side by side with him. The other Godslayer, Salvatore Anthony. According to the previously agreed plan, the two of them would work together to deal with Dustless. Marquis Oben also promised that this time, he would definitely defeat Dustless and wash away the humiliation. "That's right." As soon as they walked out of the airport, Marquis Oben said solemnly, "I still need to prepare some tools. You go deal with Dustless first." "Prepare things? What a coincidence," Salvatore Anthony said doubtfully. He was still wary of Marquis Oben. This old man was mysterious and sinister, and his personality was as cunning as a wolf. "Are you afraid of Dustless?" Marquis Oben took the opportunity to mock him. "Scared?" Upon hearing that, Salvatore Tony curled his lips and said domineeringly, "Maybe I'm not as strong as him, but the word fear has never been in my dictionary. Even if you didn't say it, I'd still want to meet him personally." "Dustless is a teacher of Xianxia Academy, right? I'll go first." Salvatore Tony carried the wrapped sword and left. He was full of fighting spirit towards Dustless, especially the mocking tone of Marquis Oben, which made him quite unhappy. Although he had only been a godslayer for a few years and might not be very strong, he was definitely not weaker than someone who had just become a godslayer. Young people are really gullible. Marquis Warban couldn't help but laugh. Looking at Salvatore Tony's disappearing figure, his hidden cunning smile was completely exposed. "Idiot, Dustless's strength is unfathomable. If you go, you'll end up like me." Touching the footprint scar on his face, Marquis Oben, who was already terrifying, became even scarier. Besides, putting aside Dustless's strength, do you still remember that Dustless has the goddess of battle, Athena, by his side? Therefore, Marquis Oben felt that he had no chance of winning from the very beginning. Even if he and Salvatore Tony put aside their previous enmity and joined forces, he didn't think that he had a chance of winning against Dustless. Therefore, he deliberately found an excuse to trick Salvatore Tony into dealing with Dustless and Athena, hoping to buy him some time. Marquis Oben said that he had found a way to defeat Dustless, and that he didn't have the ability to fight back. "Salvatore Tony, don't die before I complete my plan." Marquis Oben laughed sinisterly, revealing his dazzling white teeth. This alliance was actually just Marquis Oben, who was helpless, using Salvatore Tony. Chapter 1446. Marquis Woben was hundreds of years old. Compared to him, a novice godslayer like Salvatore Tony was always simpler. In his world there was only fighting and he was not good at scheming. "Idiot, Dustless has such a strong faction. Even if we join forces, we will only be begging for trouble. It's fine if we fail once, but I don't want to fail twice in a row at the hands of one person." Marquis Woben's expression was cold, and his whole body exuded a resolute temperament. He then followed Salvatore Tony without turning his head, treating this guy as a rash vanguard. He just had to secretly carry out the plan behind his back. Xianxia Academy's healthcare room. Miss Athena, although I'm very good at this, I absolutely can't tolerate others slandering me for no reason. The healthcare room, oh, perhaps it could no longer be called a healthcare room. The large room was filled with a transparent enchantment, and Dustless and Athena were trapped in it. Slandering me? Athena showed a blank expression and said innocently, I'm not that kind of person. Have you been beaten silly by Erica and Liliana? Don't play dumb with me. Wu Qin snorted rudely and said loudly, when did I ask you to give birth to a child? You falsely accused me and caused me to be hunted down by Erica and Liliana. Shouldn't you take responsibility? After saying that, Dustless had an unlucky expression on his face, and Athena's expression had nothing to do with him. So it's because of this. Athena showed an enlightened expression, and then nodded indifferently. Damn, can you not be so natural? Dustless complained in his heart. Athena had tricked him, but she did not show any signs of awakening. Instead, she looked frivolous and indifferent. So much so that Wu Qin really had the thought of doing him. Do you dare to deny that you have no thoughts about me? Athena asked calmly as she stretched lazily. Men were possessive of beautiful women, and 99% of men were like this. Besides, Athena was confident in her appearance, and her identity as a god could turn men into beasts. I did have an idea, but I didn't do anything. Dustless was extremely speechless. What kind of bullshit logic was this? Could it be that when others fantasized about you, it was the same as forcing you to have children? Wasn't this a little too shameless? The two of you are in a good mood. You even have the time to flirt now. Dustless and Athena were stunned. They looked at the source of the voice and saw a handsome young man standing outside the barrier. Salvatore Anthony? Dustless asked in confusion. He was quite surprised. He had no dealings with this fellow, and neither of them knew each other. However, Salvatore Tony carried a wrapped sword on his shoulder, so he thought he was up to no good. Dustless had long known that this fellow was belligerent, but he did not expect him to come knocking on his door just a few days after he became a godslayer. Chapter 1447. Challenge us. Hearing this, Dustless and Athena were both stunned. A few seconds later, the two laughed, ignoring Salvatore Tony's livid face. Challenge us both? Just by yourself. Dustless's face was full of contempt. It would be good enough if Tony could take on either him or Athena alone. It seems that this kid is so confident because he wants to take on both of us. It's too funny and stupid. What's so funny? What's wrong with me challenging both of you? Hearing the two's unscrupulous ridicule, the enraged Salvatore Tony roared at Dustless and Athena. These two adulterers look down on me too much. What's more, who told you that I'm alone? Let me tell you too clearly, I have a powerful ally. Salvatore Tony changed the topic and said proudly, there is another godslayer who has allied with me. Allied? Dustless's smile came to an abrupt end. He could not help but frown deeply. After thinking about it, he did not offend anyone except Marquis Oban. He immediately asked, could it be Marquis Oban who lost to me? Yes, it's him. Salvatore nodded slightly and replied loudly. Oh. Marquis Oban, who was secretly watching the situation, vomited blood. This idiot who only knows how to fight. Sure enough, it was wrong to cooperate with him. I was really blind. Marquis Oban's internal organs twitched fiercely. This idiot is too honest. Why are you so obedient? Dustless asked you to die, so why didn't you die? No matter what, let's capture the weakest few first. That way it will be equivalent to my victory. This guy is too much. A godslayer actually values such boring things as feelings and bonds. You are really rotten. Marquis Oban grinned and sneered, revealing his white teeth. He was as terrifying as a vampire. Looking at Dustless, his eyes were full of endless contempt. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After observing for a few more seconds and confirming that Dustless, Athena, and Salvatore Anthony would not get in his way, Marquis Warban left silently. He had secretly captured Erica, Wanligu Yoli, Liliana, and the others. The three of them were the weakest, so it would be easier to threaten Dustless after capturing them. Although his reputation would be ruined in the future, Marquis Waban had already lost his rationality due to the flames of vengeance. Thinking about the glaring footprint that Dustless had left on his face, Marquis Waban was furious. Bring it on. On the other side, Dustless crooked his finger, and the expression of looking at trash made Salvatore Toni's mouth twitch wildly. He did not even use his authority and directly rushed over with his fist. Ka. His body erupted with endless impact, forcibly tearing apart the barrier set up by Dustless. That's all. With a cold snort, seeing how fragile the barrier was, Salvatore Toni's confidence exploded. He gathered explosive force in his feet and charged over. You overestimate yourself. Shaking her head slightly, Athena turned her head away. She could not bear to see the scene of Salvatore Toni being beaten up by Dustless. The two of them were completely different existences. This barrier was set up by Dustless casually, so it was very fragile. The original intention was to prevent Dustless and Athena's conversation from being overheard. It did not think of defending against the enemy, so it was understandable that Salvatore Toni tore it apart forcefully. Repent, arrogant brat. Salvatore Toni jumped up, clenched his hand into a fist, and used the falling force to punch Dustless's face with all his might. Funny. Glancing at Salvatore Toni with pity, Dustless casually raised his palm and effortlessly caught the incoming fist. His arm that was as slender as a willow branch was unexpectedly strong. Salvatore Toni struggled for a long time but could not escape from the restraint. How is this guy so strong? On the surface, Salvatore Toni remained calm. However, he was frowning in his heart. As a close combat warrior, it was understandable that he had great strength. However, Dustless had nothing to do with this profession. Moreover, Dustless seemed to be very good at close combat. He had easily subdued Toni. His grappling skills were outstanding. This made Salvatore Toni involuntarily think of a person, Hierarch Luohao. Is he really Luohao's apprentice? Salvatore Toni speculated. When he heard Luohao say that Dustless was her apprentice a while ago, he just laughed it off. He thought it was a deliberate target to attract Marquis Warbin's firepower. Now, judging from his grappling skills, it might be true. However, just as Salvatore Toni was thinking hard, Dustless launched a counterattack. Bang! Gently lifting his right foot, Dustless kicked Salvatore Toni's groin. Ow 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 ow. Immediately afterward, Salvatore Toni's hysterical screams spread through the sky. His old face turned green and he rolled on the ground in pain. Athena, who couldn't hold back her laughter, laughed out loud. Her red face was like a ripe peach, making people want to take a bite. Scoundrel, I will kill you. Salvatore Toni was furious. The fire in his words was enough to burn a human to death. He glared at Dustless fiercely, and his eyes were as terrible as a dying beast. This bastard is too despicable. He doesn't know the rules at all. What if he becomes a cripple? Salvatore Toni grimaced in pain, covering the most important part of the man with both hands. If it weren't for the fact that they were in public, he would have taken off his pants to take a closer look. It will greatly increase your weight and will not be easily blown away. With such a body, it will also be very effective in attacking the enemy and defending. Dustless explained calmly with an expression that said, You can't hide anything from me. Go. Are you kidding me? What kind of pervert is this guy? How did he recognize my authority so quickly? Salvatore Toni's mouth twitched violently. He stared at Dustless in disbelief with his eyes wide open. This is simply cheating. Even if you are shameless, you should know when to stop. Dustless, this guy. Not only was Salvatore Toni stunned, but Athena also looked at Dustless in shock. Judging from Toni's shocked expression, Dustless was obviously telling the truth. It seems that the winner and loser have been decided. Athena felt that Dustless was difficult to deal with. At the same time, she looked at Salvatore Toni with pity. As long as Athena took out Velislana's golden sword to deal with him, this authority would be considered useless. Humph, a blind cat meeting a dead mouse. You are just lucky to be able to identify the source of my authority. Salvatore Toni retorted with a red face. There seemed to be no other explanation other than a blind guess. After all, it was impossible to say that Dustless could foresee the future. Also, Salvatore Toni changed the topic and sneered, So what if you can understand my authority? You can't break it anyway. I'd like to see how you can defeat me. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. There was a violent explosion in the air. A black shadow could be vaguely seen rushing towards Dustless. You are too full of yourself. Athena sighed softly. She had seen the miserable appearance of Salvatore Toni being beaten up. If he knew Dustless's authority, he might not be so arrogant. Athena's watery eyes moved to Dustless with interest. She originally thought that Dustless would take out the golden sword to defeat the enemy. Who would have thought that Dustless's sudden move would subvert her understanding of him? Eh, you want to be my opponent? I say you think too highly of yourself. Dustless did not dodge. His annoying face was still trying his best to humiliate Salvatore Tony. Go to hell. Salvatore Tony was furious. His powerful fist blasted towards Dustless's face. Bang bang bang. Dustless's body was like seawater, being beaten into pieces in an instant. What's going on? Salvatore Tony was stunned. It was the first time he had seen such an unexpected scene. Shouldn't a person be torn apart after being beaten down? So what? Anyway, I am a man of steel. You can't hurt me. Although he did not understand what tricks Dustless had used, he was relieved when he thought of his own ability. A man of steel could defend against most attacks. Chapter 1449. His protection of steel was quite special and could be said to be impenetrable. But this time it was destined to fail. Do you think your authority is invincible? Salvatore Tony was about to turn his head and launch an attack when he was faced with endless ridicule and contempt. Salvatore Tony could not afford to underestimate his own strength. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Lightspeed kick. Dustless's eyes became colder and colder. His feet covered with flashes of light kicked out mercilessly. TSK. I was so nervous. It turns out that you are using the same old trick again. Salvatore Tony sneered disdainfully. Just now he faced this move head-on but nothing happened. Dustless wanted to use this move to defeat him. It was simply wishful thinking. Ignorant kid, do you really think that I used my full strength just now? Witnessing Salvatore Tony's arrogance, Dustless smiled without saying a word. When encountering such an idiot, there was no need to explain more. Just let the fist speak the truth. Boom boom boom. The light-speed kick mercilessly greeted Salvatore Tony's body. In the next second he realized that his previous idea was completely wrong. It was even a little childish. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The power of the light-speed kick, this time, was different from before. Salvatore Tony was kicked hundreds of meters away. Ka ka ka. Salvatore Tony's body smashed into the wall, leaving a shocking crack. This time, his expression was not as indifferent as before. The pain on his face was clearly visible. Not so arrogant this time, right? Strolling towards Salvatore Tony, who was unable to move in the deep pit, Dustless's eyes were full of smiles. In the end, the cold smile on his face became even more obvious. At the same time, Athena also followed. You don't really want to kill him, do you? Athena approached Dustless and asked quietly. It all depends on my mood. Dustless shrugged and gave an ambiguous answer, fooling Athena casually. Boom boom boom. At the same time, a shockwave came from another direction. Dustless and Athena both stopped in their tracks. Ah, so that's how it is. No wonder that damned old man agreed to work with me. I thought he had changed, but it turns out he was using me as bait. Damn it, this was all part of Marquis Warben's plan. Looking at the black smoke rising into the sky and the servants of death scurrying around, Salvatore Tony suddenly realized that he had been fooled. Damn it. Smashing the wall next to him, Salvatore Tony wanted to swallow Marquis Warben alive. Although you are still an idiot, you are not incurable. I always thought that you would not understand the truth of the matter and would always be used by Marquis Warben. Now it seems that you are smarter than I thought. The sound of Dustless clapping could be heard. Silver had a helpless expression on his face, but the heavenly cluster cloud sword that he had stabbed into Marquis Warben's body had sunk in by a few strands. Dustless hated being threatened by others, and Marquis Warben had touched his bottom line. Dustless had always been the type of person who used despicable schemes, and Marquis Warben had touched his sore spot. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Marquis Warben bellowed with a ferocious expression. His physique suddenly changed, becoming several times stronger in an instant. You can still use your authority in this state? Dustless frowned inwardly. His internal organs had already collapsed, and even his heart was a bloody mess. Yet Marquis Warben was so ferocious that he could still use his authority. His life force was truly astounding. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Marquis Warben roared hysterically. Anyone who was forced to the brink of death would have their fighting strength increase exponentially. This was true for ordinary humans and beasts, and as a god slayer, Marquis Warban was no exception. Boom, boom, boom. The originally cloudless sky suddenly flashed with lightning and thunder, and the wind howled. There was even a sudden downpour, and the biting cold wind made it difficult for anyone to stand still. That old fellow really has a lot of authority. Dustless pursed his lips. Until now he only had the authority of Welslana. Although Mercator had also been killed by Dustless, Dustless turned a deaf ear to his useless authority. Go to hell. Thick flashes of light descended from the sky, all of them locking onto Dustless. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning kept exploding on Dustless's body, mercilessly destroying his body. Billions of Ford of lightning struck Dustless's body until it exploded. This should be the end. Looking at Dustless's body, which had exploded into several pieces, Marquis Warban's shattered heart felt a little better. And? The CIA is more suitable when you go home to sleep. The pieces of Dustless's body suddenly flashed with a large amount of light, and in a few seconds, Dustless came back to life, unharmed. Motherf ** Kerr, Marquis Warban, who had always considered himself a gentleman, was speechless. He looked at the unharmed Dustless, dumbfounded. He wanted to cry but had no tears. None of his moves seemed to work on him. How was he supposed to play this game? Liliana, stop daydreaming. Hurry up and attack. Erica saw that Marquis Warban was silent and gloomy, and shouted urgently. Then the two of them launched a sneak attack on Marquis Warban from behind. Marquis Warban screamed. His expression was extremely miserable as his arms were cut off by the two of them. You're tuning in to this Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.